Good evening, everybody, and welcome to day number 4 of the EMEA Contenders Trials Tournament. Big Hungry Phil coming at you alongside LaFon, ready to bring you the first of 2 games, which is going to be Stop Toxicity up against ASMR Esports. So, LaFon, what have the good people got to look forward to today?
Well, we have a battle for not last place at this point. You're trying to, for these 2 teams, it's we make sure that we're not going to cement ourselves in the bottom there. ASMR is certainly a longer road than any of the other teams in this bracket. You don't want to finish trials with that O and number, right? You don't have that 0 in that first column, so they're going for a win. But up against Stop Toxicity, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Obviously, Stop Toxicity with a surprising performance yesterday. With a 3-0 over Volskaya, which I don't think many people expected.
I don't think Volskaya expected it.
I don't think so either. And I mean, it's not just the fact that it's a win, right? That's not the surprising part necessarily. The surprising part was a 3-0. That's a big difference.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to catch that game myself. I was busy casting and writing articles during that one, so I can't even tell you what it was that Stop Toxicity brought to the table that Volskaya couldn't deal with, because what I've seen of Stop Toxicity so far is that they're largely just playing fairly meta compositions. It's not like they suddenly found some miraculous jack in the box that surprised Volskaya into giving them the win. Like that, they were just able to ground that out under their own steam, is my guess.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how that evolution comes in. ASMR, obviously, as we said, don't have a win yet. And for Stop Toxicity, the fact that your 1 win is against Volskaya speaks a little bit, I think, for what we kind of expect. And Stop Toxicity, like looking back at who they've kind of played out, they played against Angry Titans and Vasto, who are the first or second and third in this particular bracket. Sheer Cold is going to far away be the first place team after this, and we've seen Sheer Cold do so well. So the fact they're in Contenders Trials, we really expected them to be number 1 in the group and head into Contenders proper. Looking at this, Stop Toxicity still has to play Sheer Cold, and that's going to be a tough one to do for them.
We're really looking at Sheer Cold to have that pretty much flawless run through the bracket here. As much as you'd like to believe in some of the open division teams being the plucky newcomers, it's a big ask to go up against Sheer Cold. So Stop Toxicity are going to be looking to add 1 more on their record here today, LaFon, as we're starting off in Oasis.
We'll have to get a sense of the land, the lay of the land. We're going. Oh, okay. So this is going to be a really interesting one. We're going to see a Wrecking Ball Orisa composition here.
Okay.
And so this is like a half and half sort of composition. Half dive, half sustain, half poke, right? So Azafina on the Torbjorn. Meanwhile, on the opposite end, a pretty standard look. The only difference, obviously, the Tracer rather than the Genji. An evolution that all our teams have started to work towards in the once the Genji nerf comes through.
Ooh. That's going to be an early knockoff there. Kex is going to go down to Snip, and a couple of low health targets there for Stop Toxicity. Snip with the second now already. This has fallen apart for Stop Toxicity. I don't think they had the read on what ASMR were going to be bringing into this fight. They picked some unfortunate angles and positions, and ASMR were just able to get the upper hand in this one.
Yeah, they are going to bring their 1 kill back, so even that's undone. There's gonna be a switch over. Actually, there's no more Tracer. Tracer gets poked out pretty easily by the Torbjorn. Meanwhile, obviously the right click from the Echo plus a single shot, I believe, destroys Torb's turret. So sticky bombs into a single primary fire can get rid of it, making the Echo a little bit more versatile against Torb. However, you're starting to work up against the minefield from Snip, and that's going to be a big difference maker, though he does go down before the fight starts.
Nah, he ain't going to have that ready to go. Factor's going to have the barrage here, but popping that will make them very, very vulnerable. And in point of fact, they've spotted that they've lost a couple of players here. They go for that reposition into the back to try and deal with Alex. But what this has probably done is just given them a better route out here, as the kills are now starting to mount up in favor of Stop Toxicity.
Yeah, stun into an elimination starts that fight off, right? You get rid of the Wrecking Ball early, and all of a sudden it starts to become just a snowball. Without that space creation in the back line, life becomes a lot more difficult for ASMR Esports, and Stop Toxicity comes in and cleans up. I mean, now you're looking at perhaps sustaining through this next fight off the back of the rally plus Ant Matrix, and Bob to stabilize on point.
Ults coming in already, Amplification Matrix, and now the Molten Core coming out from Jazafina. Fank's got 1 on the way in here and is holding on to the barrage for now. Might not need to use it here. Great job here from Jazafina to stop up the way in with the Molten Core. Allows Fank to get them as they funnel in once they spot that through the Molten Core. Rez comes back in to bring Factor in, and we see ASMR back in control of the point.
Yeah, the biggest thing that's stepping out to me right now is there's not really a lot of agency from the defense in a lot of these fights, right? They're not the ones sort of setting the tempo. It's the offensive team that comes in and says, all right, we're going to get that one elimination, then we're going to snowball that into our favor in terms of picks. Pretty expensive fight, all things considered, for Stop Toxicity. They're going to commit with the Bob on the point first as they all walk through.
It makes life a little bit harder here for Factor, although the Bob goes down very quickly thanks to a bit of focus fire from Josefina and the additional damage that comes in with that supercharger. Deadline and Brain both getting in on the action with that as well, and Factor playing in melee range here on the Farah, gets a couple, and that's going to see the stagger coming out there onto plates. And ASMR at 85 still in control. We'll see a contest here from Stop Toxicity, but they've not got much time to work with.
They will not have a true fight, and depending how aggressively Stop Toxicity plays, how aggressively ASMR plays, there may not even be a contest.
Ooh. Well, Factor secured the 5v6 with Wamemon going down very quick. Josefina was about to get that Molten Core online, but gets way too close to Alex, who deals them a mighty blow and knocks them out of the fight. Factor receives the rock to the face for getting a little bit too close there, but is about to get this barrage, which could be what stuffs up this final recontest coming through for Stop Toxicity. Stop Toxicity are not out of this just yet, and Factor makes themselves vulnerable and gets taken out of it. Deadline brought back in by the Rez, and now ASMR have got to be hoping they can stall this out for the recontest to come through. Duplicate's going to come through here and allow Wamemon to pick up the duplicate onto the Brigade. Likely to have the rally online soon, but they're going to secure the flip here, and now ASMR need to win one more fight to take this back.
The question is, the first fight pick has always been sort of the attackers, despite the fact that the defense should have better positioning in a couple of these fights. I mean, look no further than the last one where there really shouldn't have been a recontest available. But we're going to come in now, and you're looking at that Molten Core to, bisect the points, as well as the minefields. Good stick, though.
Oh, that's great. Stuffs up Deadline, and without a lot of the sustain and stun potential out from the Brigitte, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to make their way in onto this one. They have committed the Molten Core, and Alex just gets mowed down by the mech. Might not be enough here, as we do see Wamemon get a couple here. That knockoff probably isn't going to get too much there from Snip, because, of course, the Echo will have the fly here, and now it's getting close to even here. We're going to see this go to 99.99 before the flip-la-fon.
Yeah, and I mean, the rally is going to be available here now for Deadline, but I'm not sure that's enough. Because you need a contest. You need someone to touch point here, and who is it going to be?
Well, looks like we've got a couple of candidates here on the side, but they need to be careful they don't get stunned out of that. Yeah, waiting for the last couple of seconds here to proc the rally, to buy a little bit more space to get onto the point. Shield comes down, as does the supercharger, meaning those kills are going to be that little bit easier to find. 1-for-1 trades with DPS is taken off the table here for both teams. Both teams getting a little less pointy as a result of it. Factor spots people trapped up in that low ground defensive position on the left-hand side and starts to spam in rockets. Wants to whittle people down, wants to get this barrage. The barrage, if thrown in the right place, can open this up, but it's not online yet. Rex is going to be taking a lot of damage here, but he's facilitating his team. He's allowing them to get the damage in over the top. He kinetic grasps the majority of the barrage, and now Stop Toxicity just needs to get rid of the last few recontesting tanks here, and they're likely to take this point. Snip goes down, and 1 point on the board here on Oasis for Stop Toxicity.
A really good fight there from Stop Toxicity. They prevent a full recontest from happening, right? We saw there was a rushed approach to the point by SMR. They needed to commit the rally early, and the supercharger, as a result, was not in a very good position, so they weren't able to get a lot of value from it. And while you're waiting for the fire to get into position to deal damage over the top, it just takes too much time, and your tanks get zoned out as a result. So SMR, just unfortunately, the timing does not work out for them. And it was a round they should have won. I mean, it was 99%. Overtime was in effect, and they just were not able to prevent a contest from happening. So we'll see if that affects them here in this next round, but certainly something to keep an eye out for.
It is, and I worry a little bit for ASMR because this is Fankta's comfort pick. It's the hero he's most well known for playing, is the Pharah, but it means that it's very easy to predict that it's likely to be coming out, and it means that, you know, having Wimemon or having Alex pick up the Ashe makes Fankta that little bit more vulnerable. But currently playing at quite the range here, gets a couple of splashes through and starts to build some ult charge here. One pick already on the board with Deadline dealing with Alex, and now ASMR Esports are moving forward as a unit. Fankta's going to take a little flank here on the left-hand side, stop the enemy brig from escaping, but now is in range of the tank line, takes a bit of damage, but isn't too afraid because, of course, the Pharah rocket there going to scare off the Winston. Monkeys typically afraid of loud noises.
We're going to have the first cap go through to ASMR as a good direct comes in on to the Echo. And I mean, they're going to...
Yeah, the ASMR still in this fight. With Stop Toxicity kind of forcing them to be in it by just feeding themselves into the point once it had already been lost. A little bit strange decision making.
Oh, I mean, yeah, as a result, there's going to be some swaps here as we're going to see the dropping of the Winston and switching over to the double shield. So we'll reapproach this composition. I mean, Brain is actually pretty vulnerable on this Orisa if you can actually get a frontline brawl going in and just sort of ignore the fact that you have a backline, because the two tanks here are not playing together, right? And if you, there's two ways to deal with this. Either you shut down the Wrecking Ball and then walk in, or you just pretend the Wrecking Ball doesn't exist and you take the front fight to the Orisa. So this is really playing around that Orisa, less shielding pressure that she has.
Fankta's eye in the sky, looking for an angle to throw in this barrage, but might not need it here. There's a lot of splash damage coming through onto Stop Toxicity anyway without that barrage in over the top. We'll see the rally come through. It's a stick from downtown, but between the rally and the natural armor there for Brain on the Orisa, it's not going to connect in a meaningful way, and the follow-up damage just wasn't there. Goes to duplicate, pick up the Pharah here. Not a thing we normally see, but finding some value, and it drops down, procs the barrage, but lands in the Molten Core. We'll still get one out of that, and then back up into full health on the Echo. So Stop Toxicity still in this fight, but ASMR not giving it up for free just yet. Rex gets pressured, has to fall into the waiting embrace of that immortality field. And this is a very tradey fight here, Lafon. No one's really got the upper hand.
The focus fire from Stop Toxicity is basically non-existent. No one is shooting at the same target, and it's taking the amplification matrix to really flip this one over. But while that happened, this point is going to tick over to 99. And
yeah,
I mean, for Stop...
come through, though.
Yeah, we will, but for Stop Toxicity, I mean, in these fights, you need to be shooting at the same target. Things are just staying alive for way too long, and if we look at what's available here now for the for ASMR, walking in, I would expect to see the minefield to force positioning. Well, Concussive Blast will start it, but then the minefield to displace the backline, and then you go in with the Supercharger Barrage to clean up the fight and take the round.
Yeah, there's an easy win condition on the table here. You see the Supercharger out first. I believe that was an early Immortality field out from Yoham as well. So now they've not got a lot to shelter themselves from this incoming barrage. And Alex is going to go down here as well. High ground position here from Fankta will secure 2 picks with the barrage. Yoham focuses down, but Lafon, the damage has been done here. And unless we get some very speedy recontests out from Stop Toxicity, it's going to be ASMR Esports taking this to 1-1 on Oasis.
Yeah, and the stuff comes in there as Snip gets the block onto Alex's Tracer. And so we are headed to round number 3 on this first map of Oasis. And a much better prevention of the recontest there, right? That's what we needed to see on round 1. Because remember, ASMR had the 99. They had the completion, or they had the advantage. It was 99 to 37, I believe. So looking into this, you're an adaptation from ASMR Esports to prevent the recontest.
He's back. He's back, everyone. We lost you for a second there, Lafon. You back with us?
Yes, here we are. All right.
Okay. All right, well, apologies for that, everybody. I think we should be back and ready to go for this one. And more of the same from these guys, really, Lafon.
Certainly is. I mean, there is going to be a McCree here, actually, just to poke around, and that makes sense because the flanker's not really getting a ton of value into the Torbjorn.
No, it's really not. Really difficult to make that work. And, of course, additional pressure there onto the airborne duo of Willy and Fankta. He's going to have to play very, very safe here, not to just get whittled down by the boosted rockets himself. He's looking for angles, but Factor's doing a very good job here of playing up among the rafters and not giving him a line of fire. Early flip has come through now to stop Toxicity, but ASMR Esports aren't giving this one up just yet. They managed to find a pick here with Wamemon going down. Alex takes a bit of a dink there, and Factor smells blood in the water. Concussive blast his way in. Will get punished for it. Rez likely to come through here and bring Factor back in, and there's the flip.
It's not a full commit, though. It's not a very clean play. Deadline goes down, so that means Orox is actually going to go in with the rallies. They want to just retake this fight.
Yeah, this is a huge advantage here, not having to worry about the enemy rally coming your way. They need to find some damage around that, though. We'll see a bit of splash come through onto Snip. He gets out of the way on this one. So not too much damage done there, and the Molten Core coming through from Jazafina gets one pick already. Hex defies gravity for a moment, then deals with Brain, but that's a 1-for-1 trade here. Not enough to win this fight, particularly when your supports are looking that little bit low and tasty. Factor with another barrage, finds the line through, gets the run down, finds Horrocks and Skytor, and this is looking like ASMR holding on here, and just a last few stragglers from Stop Toxicity to be rid of.
Yeah. ASMR now actually puts themselves in a really good position to win out this map, because there was a lot of commit from Stop Toxicity in that fight, right? That was an engagement. Remember, the point was not in their control, so it wasn't like they were accruing percentage. Now we're up to a 60% mark, and there's realistically nothing available that will help you punch in at the start of this fight. So you're going to waste some more time to get this point in your favor, and then you have to start worrying about the long walk back.
Oh, well, Molten Core out nice and early. What a beautiful read on the rotation coming out from Stop Toxicity. The minefield, the Molten Core, the trap hazards come through in spades, and Stop Toxicity get deleted from the map.
So on one end, you have explosions, and the other, the floor is lava. So there isn't really anywhere to go in a tiny corridor, and that just a well-placed combo just stops the push from even happening. Now we're in that last fight territory. This is the fight you have to win, though. You have the tools available, but I mean, it's going to be a rushed fight. You're hitting that 90% mark.
Nice halt, slows the rotation down, allows Jazafina to get in and focus down that immortality field that comes out early. But Skytor is able to get an early pick here. And we've got the duplicate coming through from Wamemon, who picks up the Orisa here. And again, the map hits 99% the fun, and Stop Toxicity finally find the on switch and manage to flip the points.
You are going to have... I mean, you're not going to have much in this next engagement, it must be said, if you are Stop Toxicity. So they that first fight, it may end up coming back to haunt them with how long they took to recontest.
It may well do. They've not really got a way to deal with the barrage or the minefield here.
Not at all. You need to get a first pick. Willie, goes down. Okay, so still a trade though.
Yeah, 1-for-1. Factor has the barrage. He might go for a gutsy one. He might not even need it. He will find two, and now he knows where Stop Toxicity are, and the rest of ASMR are starting to move through to corral them, and they manage the flip. Stop Toxicity not quick enough to get back onto the point, and now the entirety of that left-hand side stuffed up by the minefield. Factor with the barrage likely to round this here, 99-45, and it's Wamemon back in on the Tracer, ducking and diving, trying to keep the point alive that little bit longer, but nobody wants him there from ASMR Esports, and the second people tag on to the point, they are deleted by the focus fire, and ASMR are going to take the map 2-0.
Was a very, very interesting sequence of events there that happens to prevent a contest, right? Or to prevent a fight. I think realistically, Stop Toxicity looks at that first fight on the third point and they say, that's what we want back, right? When you lose the point that early, when the point flips over, if the fight does not immediately turn in your favor, then you're not going to win the engagement, right? There's too much to kind of play up against. And the biggest problem is not that they traded kills. The problem is that the point percentage was accruing in favor of their opponent. So the longer that fight went on, the more it really became a stall more than anything, but a stall for the wrong team. And well, at least in Stop Toxicity's eyes, and ASMR are the beneficiaries, and that's what allows them to get to that 99 mark. And then 99-17, suddenly there's a lot of retake potential, and that's exactly what happens.
I think it was particularly gutsy there of ASMR in that last fight to commit once they'd already lost, particularly Willie. Going down, losing the support for the Farah means that that's quite a lot of that duo's utility offline, more than 50% because of the way those two heroes work additively. and they still just managed to corral Stop Toxicity off the point, get them trapped up in that little room where the ASMR comp really works out well for them. So I think as much as you want to talk about Stop Toxicity not having played that to the best of their ability, there's a lot to be said about ASMR Esports recognizing what the win condition for their composition is.
Sure, and to your point in that last fight, the reason why you go ahead with that play, it's unlike the first fight. It's a mirror of the first fight, really. What happens is that the rally's ongoing, and though the Mercy gets picked off, it's a 1-for-1 trade. So you have rally, you have inspire up, and you trade out the point of the spear, essentially the tip of the spear, for Stop Toxicity, because they lost their Echo player, right? So now we're saying, well, ASMR, you know, it's a 1-for-1 trade. We have rally, the healing potential not really that big a deal. Armor is so valuable. And so that's why they go ahead with that play. And they have a little bit more to work with. Again, remember, the other thing too is that it's in overtime. So the point had flipped over to them by that point. So they are, you know, they're suddenly starting to say, well, the respawns are a lot longer too. And so it's a little bit of much like a mirror, it's an inverse of what they were looking at from the previous part. And so that's why it works out in ASMR's favor.
I want to take a step back from just looking at this map and this matchup in particular, and maybe draw some parallels with what's happening in the rest of Contenders trials, because the composition that Stop Toxicity were running here, the thing it most resembles to me is the kind of compositions that we've been seeing coming out from Avoided for a long time. And particularly having a Pharah specialist in the roster. For Avoided, it's Yezen. For ASMR Esports, it's Factor. We've seen people struggle to deal with the threat that the Pharah can provide here. And I'm thinking back to the last Avoided match I saw where they were against Shoes Money Crew. They kept trying to run the Echo into the Pharah as like a matched aerial threat here, and it just never seemed to work out for them. I feel like despite that we think of Echo as this kind of assassin-style character, a lot of burst damage, there's a lot to be said for Pharah's ability just to out-sustain that with the Mercy Pocket.
I think the other thing too is the ranges that Pharah operates at is very different than the ranges Echo operates at. Because yes, Echo has a lot of bursts, but she has to get pretty close to do that, right? It's 16 meters, I think, as we just saw our map set, and we're headed to map number 2, Volskaya. But back to your point, Pharah versus Echo, and why I think Pharah works really well is that playing the hit scan requires a lot of sort of resources applied to the hit scan these days to kind of keep them alive. And the difference being, the reason why we saw a lot of Ashe when we saw the Ashe Genji in the terms of the poke is because the Ashe does not require as many resources because of how Genji plays, right? Genji plays aggressively, so you take space away from the the Ashe, pardon me, and she's able to get value that way. She puts pressure on the tanks, whereas Genji kind of plays around a different angle to give her space. When you're playing a McCree, when you're playing a Widow, when you're playing a dedicated hit scan, and you don't have anyone taking that off angle, the Pharah can actually just spam into you pretty easily, and that means it's a lot more difficult to do your job. So we're gonna see some hit scan played out here, but I don't necessarily think it's gonna be it's gonna definitely be a lot more difficult for the hit scan to do their job, especially against Pharah in the air.
It is, and I do wonder if we'll eventually see Alex swap off the McCree, or whether they're just going to try and brute force his rotation up onto the high ground where he can get into the effective range. Alex from Stop Toxicity now with a line through onto Snip as they roll back up onto the high ground, and we're just going to see Stop Toxicity try and just brute force their way onto the point here, not try and take the high ground engage. Stop Toxicity already starting to find a couple of picks there, but Alex is going to get traded out by Legendary, who's come in for ASMR. But ASMR find 3 very quick picks here, and they're looking for a quick cap 1.8 from. This was almost a defense that didn't even happen for Stop Toxicity.
The one thing that happens there though is the immortality field was forced out so early from Toxicity, right? From Stop Toxicity. ASMR are going to be in green, I believe, actually. Weirdly enough, so colors seem to have switched around, but we are gonna have a moment to reset and reapproach. The double shield was able to get onto point. Again, it's double shield versus Ball and Orisa. The Wrecking Ball does a lot of displacement, but he can't help that Orisa, as I said. So they walk into point to get first take, but a great anti-nade from Deadline stymies that push as they're forced to clean up the immortality field and then get the cleanup right after that.
So looking for that rotation now around the other side of that mini health pack. cut, and Factor once more with the barrage online is going to have to duck out of the way as the High Noon comes on board. Up on the high ground, too much shielding in the way. It's not going to go through, and now Legendary is just going to have to make the high ground work here. Finds takes, but Factor is already traded out. Willie looks like they might have the res online, going for a swoop in onto the low ground, can't get the res, gets pressured out again here. We have got one tick on the board already here for Stop Toxicity, but they've not done enough here to dislodge ASMR just yet. Pulse Bomber is a good start as Deadline goes down to it, but Willie now has that res back online to bring them in. Snip couldn't get the run through there, but is rapidly closing in on having that minefield ready to go. And it's taken them a little while to find momentum, but ASMR are starting to find the defensive kills they need to keep this going. Legendary's going to have to back out here. Too much damage coming his way too consistently from the enemy Sigma of Kex, but they've managed to round this out. And now Kex is caught away in the back. He's going for the tactical reset.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's no longer a flank, and it just becomes a stagger, and that's what happens to Kex there. He gets caught in for quite some time, and I think people just ignore him because he's not really getting any final blows, so he just sort of hangs out while you deal with the other threats that are in your face. And I think now we are down to that last minute, and you're looking at this. You have to push into a minefield on an objective. That's a tough place to be. This point is a lot more open than point B, so the minefield will have to be positioned very well, but should that happen, it's going to be difficult to recontest.
You need kind of a 10-point tumble off the high board to really get those minefields spread out in a way that stops the point being fully contested. And we've got a lot of offense and a lot of defense now on the table to stop Toxicity. But between the Mines and the High Noon, Alex and Johan are going to go down here. And Legendary is still more or less uncontested on the high ground. And he's got the additional damage in from the Mercy and from that Supercharger, which means that he can afford to stay up here and rein in the damage. There's one last scrappy contest available here for Stop Toxicity.
That minefield was, and the resulting pile driver actually meant that it pushed people out of the immortality field, so the High Noon was able to get value. Just a good combo there yet again, and ASMR doing a good job with these combos overall.
Factor's got that barrage online, and we have seen Deadline commit the nano boost onto Factor, who takes a lot of damage, but will throw in the barrage and find a pick here. And now we've only got 2 remaining members of Stop Toxicity trying to keep this going. Legendary casually sidesteps the Pulse Bomb as it comes through, gets the kill with the flashbang, the style point, and that's where it shuts down. Less than half of the point capped here on A for Stop Toxicity.
Not only does Legendary sidestep the Pulse Bomb, it's actually Tracer stepping into her own Pulse Bomb to go down. It's unfortunate timing there, but a good hold from ASMR, I believe, there on the point. As you highlighted, less than half the point to take, and depending on their composition, we'll wait a moment and see exactly what they decide to go for, because it's easy to fall into the trap of, okay, it's only half the percentage on the point, and kind of like take your hands off the wheel essentially, and things then start to spiral out of control. But depending on how passively Stop Toxicity takes this fight, I think there's a real chance that we might continue to see the Wrecking Ball come in to sort of displace that back line and just create space that Stop Toxicity doesn't really seem to have any chance of getting through. You know what I mean?
It looks like they're going to be coming out with the Echo here again, Lafon. And I've been over already why I don't like this. We've discussed why we maybe think it's a suboptimal pick, but given the typical map geometry of Volskaya A, and the fact that actually there's a lot of places for an Echo to hide and maybe get a surprise kill onto Factor or Willie, would this work out for them here?
If they can get a true dive going and consistently play extremely aggressively and not let ASMR set up, then yes, it could work. But that's a tall order. That's not an easy thing to do. So we'll see here. Snip
it's a big ask for coordination.
Yeah, it is.
Snip already tying Womemron up in the back line, stopping.
This is not a good start. This is not a good start for Stop Toxicity. They're already all spread out.
Oh, wow. And we see that Antinade come through. Factor with the damage in over the top, deals with Skytor, and it's now 5v6 on the defense. It's a 4v6 as Legendary deals with Womemron here as well, and it is absolutely falling to pieces here. This was a disastrous hold on A for Stop Toxicity. And you've got to wonder, where is the team that just yesterday took Vox Nihili, an ex-Contenders team, to 3-0?
I think Vox nearly has to ask themselves the same questions.
Yeah, here we go. No recontest. That is it. That was blisteringly fast from ASMR. I mean, Stop Toxicity, they may as well not have turned up to that fight. They played it so scrappily. They were all over the place. And ASMR, they didn't even really need focus fire. They just pumped a lot of resource into Factor, and Factor found the opening pick.
The point there is that the Wrecking Ball, what it does is it allows you to Stop Toxicity kind of fell for the bait, if you will, right? They walked in and they're like, oh, there's a Wrecking Ball, better chase him. You're not going to kill that Wrecking Ball unless you've got everybody there, and you're definitely not everybody. Only 2 people went to chase them. So now it's a 5v4, but then the Wrecking Ball comes back, and just a focus fire on Stop Toxicity's Wrecking Ball was so much better. So ASMR onto the main tank of Stop Toxicity. And yeah, so Stop Toxicity falls for the bait, something that you cannot do with less than 40%, with less than 50%, pardon me, on the objective captured. And that allows, when you get that first pick, when you have so little space to hold, you're looking for a hero play, but ASMR just does not allow it to happen. So a good, clean fight for ASMR.
It almost felt like a miscommunication there of Stop Toxicity. It's such a fun name to say in the middle of a broadcast. Thank you very much for that, guys. Like, seeing that there was that opportunity to get the Wrecking Ball, like, I can't think of a comm structure where, yes, one person chased the Wrecking Ball is the correct call. And you've got to wonder then where the mental is for Stop Toxicity in this, because, you know, a team that's made it up into Contenders trials really shouldn't be making mistakes like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an understandable. The Wrecking Ball does command so much respect, right? By necessity, he's a very large HP pool. He has a surprisingly high damage, and damage that you don't necessarily expect to come through, right? When you get that double boop through it, it's a lot. It really hurts. It's like what, 75 plus. So it's not something to sort of to sort of ignore. But at the same time, you can't go chasing a wild egg or a wild goose, right? That's not that's also not effective. And it's sort of balancing. And as you said, yeah, you cannot be making those mistakes at this level. You have to realize when you have to balance chasing a target versus when that target is bait. And I mean, learning it live during a game is not the best timing to do that. But for Stop Toxicity, it looks like they don't have a choice.
Yeah, it's a lesson that you do have to learn, but I agree, in a game like this, it's probably not where you want to be making it. Although, worth highlighting again that for both of these teams, the stakes are kind of low. Yes, you want the pride points of having gotten a win on the board, having gotten 2 wins on the board if you're Stop Toxicity, but it's not like the performance here does much to elevate you above the competition. Your odds of making actual contenders here are 0 in effect, given how the rest of the group is shaken out. And I wonder if we're now maybe seeing, rather than this being a problem with the comm structure or a problem with them not reading the team comp correctly, is both of these teams maybe trying things that are a little bit different and treating this as maybe kind of like an extended scrim for them.
We've seen that in previous Contenders trials, so I would not be surprised if that's the case. I've talked to teams and they said, yeah, once we get to that point in Contenders trials, it becomes more of a start preparing for the next sort of wave of Overwatch that we have to play. So I would not necessarily be surprised at that happening. I obviously haven't talked to both these teams, so I couldn't tell you if that's what they're doing.
But it's fun to speculate, LaFon.
Sure, it's fun to speculate. And also, I will say that we haven't seen a ton of Genji. Genji, who is, we must remind you, this is patch 1.50 for Contenders trials. Live is 1.50.1. So Genji got patched on the 0.1 patch. So we still have strong Genji. The fact that he's not being played may speak to that point a little bit, that we are getting more of a, all right, what's going to be good in place of Genji when he switches, you know, when we get to that point. And that's I will say the one evolution that I'm kind of surprised by is the Wrecking Ball Orisa. Because, and the reason why I'm surprised by that is because I've seen a lot of Wrecking Ball being played recently, and Wrecking Ball or Winston in a sort of dive-esque composition, but the off tank tends to be Zarya, right? Because you play all around the Wrecking Ball, and the disruption sort of that brings. Here, what we're seeing is sort of like a mitigated or a not a hesitation. The word escapes me, but the point being that you're using that as an ancillary target. The Wrecking Ball is not the prime focus of your strategy. it's still based around the Orisa, and the Wrecking Ball just creates more havoc in the backline. So certainly an interesting difference of opinion between, say, Europe and North America or China.
Yeah, nice that we're seeing some regional differences coming out here. Worth noting that this is also a majority EU team against a majority Middle Eastern team, so maybe even some subdivisions in how we expect this to go between our two combined regions here. But it's an early pick, an early couple of picks here from Deadline, actually, coming live on the Baptiste, finding a quick double and sending Stop Toxicity back to spawn.
Yeah. ASMR still in a green, Stop Toxicity in the white, as we will get that first hold pretty handily, like not even close. Just combination of the dynamite plus good pickoffs from Legendary means that Fangta gets so much more value with the Pharah. We're gonna see another swap come in as Alex is gonna go over to the McCree, the hit scan, the dedicated hit scan, but this is a tall order because he gets outranged by the Ashe, so Ashe will be able to duel the McCree easily. And then the Pharah is also going to be able to play in cover, spamming out the whole time, just burning resources. Alex has a real tough call.
Yeah, this is rough because he catches them in the rotation and generates the barrage, knows where they're going to be coming from. Obviously, there's some shielding there to stop that coming through, but they've got to be so cognizant of the fact that Fangta is up here, gets stunned out of it, and that was a great play by Alex. Gives his life for it, so this might not come too much in terms of capture percentage on the point, but it's an opening. It's something they didn't have before, but they've now lost Kex. But we'll see that we lose the couple more players here, but the rest comes back through onto the Orisa, bring them back into the fight. So ASMR starting to stabilize here, and as we get that final pick there onto Tracer, they will continue the hold, and less than a third gained on the point, so no permanent progress for Stop Toxicity.
Yeah, exactly, and that means that now, with only 2 minutes remaining, and realistically musical chairs being played through, this is where Stop Toxicity has to kind of make their stand, because if they don't win this fight, they likely will not get the first point. This is where your resources come in. You're going to have 6 or 5 ultimates coming in just a moment. You need to press the go button and really go aggressively off the back of this supercharger and rally.
Well, see who's going to be the most aggressive with this one and slam the bongo down first. Of course, difficult to make your way through and preserve that supercharger under the consistent pressure that Fangta's putting here. And the tracking and the predict on that from Fangta was disgusting to deal with, Waymona.
Also, double damage certainly helps, or maybe quad damage actually.
Yeah,
because it was double boost.
We've got the rally thrown in, and now the Bob out from Legendary. So that rally going to be heavily mitigated here by the consistent pressure that the auto turret ultimate of Bob puts down. Sniff has the minefield, drops it in, stuffs up the point. Holt drags Muffin back into it and allows the pick to come through. There's the slam down, but Kex has managed to find 3 kills here. Sniff gets caught now in the back, and with less than a minute on the clock, Stop Toxicity have finally found their way through.
I mean, that was, like I said, that was the fight they needed to win. It was a protracted fight, took them a lot longer, but that's because they allowed ASMR to just waste basically their resources. The supercharger bought time, and then the minefield bought time, but they weren't able to really get a team wipe to deny, the counter ultimates, which was obviously the supercharger into the generation of your gravitic flux of your duplicate. So well played there from Stop Toxicity. Still not a lot of time on the board though to get through second.
No, and Womaman takes a lot of damage on the way through, and now they've got to deal with Legendary with this incredibly strong defensive position on the high ground. No real way for Alex to contest it, and the second when he pops his head above the parapet, it's likely to be taken off at the shoulders by Legendary. But he has been forced down momentarily, gives up some of that positioning. Fangta holding onto the barrage now as well, needs to be careful, but has a line in onto the team through the amplification matrix, doesn't need the barrage, does it with the amp matrix, and that's going to be ASMR retaking control of the payload.
Yeah. It's not a ground Pharah if you're on a roof, and so the amplification matrix, the amplification matrix actually works out really well. Not often you see a Pharah get kills through it, but what it does, it is pretty spectacular. And Fangta has actually now gotten so much value with the damage amplification abilities off the back of the Mercy Pocket. It will take 1 rocket to shut someone down, so it gets through that damage breakpoint pretty easily.
Alex looking to buy space here with the high noon and the Hulk brings Deadline into the line of fire of that ultimate. Minefield comes out looking to buy space for Willie to get in and bring the res back in onto Deadline. And Alex now being forced back around the corner by the consistent pressure coming in from the high ground. He's being outranged and outpositioned at every turn. He finds the minefield as the run through comes in from Sniff. Fangta gets 2 with the barrage, and Alex is down yet again. This is looking so rough to stop Toxicity, LaFon. Oh,
they're gonna commit to this.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it back because they're starting to find some work here. When Movement gets Brain with the sticky bombs, and they are now back in control of the car. But expect a very strong recontest coming in from ASMR shortly.
That was, I mean, with such traded fights, the fact that spawn is so close for Stop Toxicity means they were able to reset that fight and re-engage. And they're gonna have the damage, the supercharger here, right? They're gonna be able to burn through pretty hard in this fight. So if the supercharger stays online, you're looking pretty good.
Comes out early, supercharger is still there, but the supercharger does nothing to protect Alex, and Alex is down early, securing the 5v6 for ASMR. TNT is going to deal with Wamaimon here. Still a couple of ults available, but little to no chance for Stop Toxicity to put them into play. And now we're at the 30-second mark, and for Stop Toxicity to get the recontest, they've got to walk through an absolute barrage of ultimates here.
The worst part is that fight, 2 ultimates were used by Stop Toxicity. ASMR used nothing, right? They actually don't commit to that fight. I think Deadline may have used the Ant Matrix, but that's not really a game changer in the sense of generation of it. So that you lost that fight just based off of the picks. The Wrecking Ball in the backline assassinates your Ashe, and then things go from bad to worse. ASMR now in last fight territory.
Yeah, in fact, that's going to be the overtime wick now ticking down. See the slam come through from the Grid Flux, but it only finds one, and that's Ashe traded out for Ashe. Snip with the roll through and the roll up, the knock up the power drive, the follow up there with the primary fire, but it's going to be Skytopper gets the first pick here, and Snip gets focused down a little bit out of the way, receives the stun, receives the second stun here. It is not a fun time to be a Wrecking Ball when there are so many stuns in play. Fangta looking to break that barrier, dodges the rock, now in a position to throw in that barrage. Immortality field down, and there's never been a better time to be a Pharaoh with a barrage. Concussive blast away into the back because there is too much pressure coming through from the Orisa. Kills are there, and Fangta is still looking healthy. He presses the button, he pulls the trigger. There's that 3K with the barrage, and the payload stops just before we get to point C.
The timing there from ASMR was much better. Survive the onslaught of resources that come in from Stop Toxicity, correct? And then when those are expended, that's when you have started to get yourself in a position where you're able to take the fight. And it's all about finding that patience, finding that space and time to really start to correct some of the over turns that come through, right? Because you're playing at a disadvantage in terms of just resource management. Because Stop Toxicity has just more in their bank. With that being said, though, the longer, if the more that Stop Toxicity uses those abilities, uses those resources, and doesn't get value, the more they start to have to panic because they're in overtime. They don't really have, the time to make mistakes. And so with that, ASMR just take the time, show patience and survive, and then they return, and they're not playing with nearly as much pressure because overtime's in their favor.
And I do feel a little bit like the victories that we have seen, the small victories, the capping of points here from Stop Toxicity have all been in that overtime scenario. So it's not really going to take much for ASMR Esports to find a couple of extra seconds here and there to beat out that time advantage. Stop Toxicity have got to start tightening the screws here because there's a lot of water leaving this boat, and ASMR are on course to sink this. No changes here in the comp for ASMR as they come through, and we're on to the Ashe Tracer double shield here for Stop Toxicity.
It feels like
going to miss there.
Well, that won't miss.
No, he has missed a couple times, but not that one. Alex is going to take Fangta down, but Fangta brought back in by the res. And having the Mercy pocket here, the Muffins looking after Alex here is a great adaptation. Yoham's able to find Deadline, and this push in from ASMR going to be momentarily stopped out.
Yeah, and I mean, you're playing the Mercy. The Mercy just provides a lot easier of a time for Alex to actually take these 1v1s, right? He doesn't have to be nearly as afraid of going after Fengta or Legendary for that matter, right? You can go for the aggressive plays because you know you'll get the one tap, whereas Alex has to go for two. So that's always the one side of things. So it's a slow push. Umeimoni in the back line here, looking for a pick off, perhaps some damage to get the pulse bomb online.
Might be able to force out the mortality field here from if he catches Yo. How did
Skytor goes down?
Deadline caught away in the back. Umeimoni looking to find the pick there. Skytor gets rezzed back in. And Legendary now on the low ground looking to outduel Umeimoni here. And Skytor now able to deal with Fangta up onto the high ground for Legendary. Has a line through, but it's going to be a little bit too late there because Fangta is down once again. And we've just seen the res already used by Willie. But ASMR are slowly building up ultimates here. We are going to see one of those thrown in even. We're going to see Brain get the pick here and the Supercharger now. Sorry, the Nano Boost now offline for Deadline. Bob available for Legendary. Going to buy a huge amount of space. Draws focus. Makes them turn their heads away from Alex and away from Fangta, who start to find the damage. There's the triple. There's the quad. 2 on the TNT here for Legendary. And that's going to be the cap for ASMR. And a long way from the overtime cap that we saw to stop Toxicity.
The question I have is how in a fight where 3 people aren't even looking at the objective, 3 people are totally taken away from the fight in general, how does Skytor go down? How does the Orisa be the first one to get picked when 3 people aren't even looking at him?
Overwatch moves in strange and mysterious ways, my friend. It's better not to ask too many questions.
I mean, that really realistically cost them the first point with your main tank, especially Orisa down that early. Even though you do get the res in, that's just so much more time for the pressure to be continued, right? Like, it's not like once the Orisa goes down, everyone's like, oh, we'll stop shooting.
Oh, this is awful. Alex and the Muffin both quite good here. We will lose Fangta as part of that due to pulse bomb, but expect that res to come back in fairly soon. And the kills are still coming through from ASMR Esports. They're going to lose their main tank, but they've got a hefty numbers advantage and a hefty respawn advantage here. And stop Toxicity fall player after player after player, and ASMR are keeping that payload moving through.
I would expect here for Stop Toxicity to command a fight with the Gravitic Flux Supercharger, right? Once everyone's in the air, you need the Supercharger just to confirm those kills and look for that to be the play, because if Stop Toxicity doesn't get it off,
oh no,
this map's over.
I mean, it's already looking really rough. The res is used early here. Fangta maybe failed that concussive blast there, but has the barrage online, has the high ground position, has the ability to move in and out of cover and get into the position to drop this barrage in. Will receive a little bit of pressure here, but now has the Nano Boost online, ready to go. He's up from the top of the skybox, but he's only able to get that Supercharger, but it buys a huge amount of space and does enough body damage there for the rest of ASMR Esports to get the follow-up kills. And now they all died so quickly from Stop Toxicity that we're not going to see the recontest. That payload moves through into the box of victory, and we get a 3-0 for ASMR Esports with their first point on the board here for Contenders Trials.
What a way to get your first win. It's a 3-0. I think we have to start looking at some of these, because Vox Nihili gets 3-0'd, and then Stop Toxicity gets 3-0'd. So, I mean, whoever's next up against ASMR, you better watch out, because 3-0 might be in your future at this rate.
I think we've established for some time ago, Lafon, that actually the commutative property doesn't exist for Overwatch. Just because you beat a team one day doesn't mean that the team that they lost to the last time is going to beat them next time, and so on and so forth.
But so far, I think this is like the opposite of it, because the team that won loses the very next game. So just putting that one out there.
We'll continue the research.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll wait till the end of Contenders Trials, but we'll come in with the paper afterwards. Back to the game at hand. 'Cause credit to ASMR Esports, right? It's easy to kind of get lost in the sort of context of what happened this match. We said ASMR. It was a 3-0, and it was a fairly easy 3-0. I don't think this was a particularly close game, especially not on Assault, which was less than a point captured for Stop Toxicity. So going into ASMR's next kind of game, which again, they're still playing for sort of recognition, even if they're not going to make it into Contenders at this point. The question then comes in, all right, can we keep that sort of evolution going? It was a very one-sided match, so will they be able to take what they've learned from this one, from their compositional setups, and move into the next sort of games that they have, and just continue that kind of growth as a team?
it's probably worth LaFon going and diving back into the VOD footage, particularly for ASMR Esports, because they're running this avoided style composition, and I'm having to dig back a little ways in my memory to Open Division. I feel like when we saw ASMR Esports in Open Division, they were running a lot more of the static comps that we're kind of used to seeing on the current patch. So it might just be that it has taken ASMR that little bit of time to see what other teams have been running, particularly avoided, and come up with their own interpretation of that for them to finally start to find some success.
There is, I mean, that is absolutely the case. Whether the question, teams get stuck in this kind of like identity crisis, especially you know, from Open Division into trials. And I think now that we have a sort of, we're in a weird time in Overwatch where I don't think there's any true quote unquote meta, right? There's what is consistently good, which is the double shield poke. That has been, most teams are running that because that is most of the time pretty much the best thing, right? But then we've seen teams sort of adapt and evolve based on that. So, oh, you have a fantastic Tracer who's a carry player, put the Tracer in, right? Oh, you don't necessarily think that the Orisa shield, double shield works out your favor? Play the Wrecking Ball, you know, especially on maps where there's a lot of high ground. Now you can start to get a little bit more value, or where your Wrecking Ball can kind of dance around the objective. Those are the things that we're kind of seeing. So I think the fact that there is no longer such a truly static idea of meta, this is not GOATS. Let's just say that. There's no, if you don't go the mirror, you're going to lose kind of situation. I think it's if you can justify your composition's logical win condition, and it's not based on just ult management, there is a neutral aspect to it, a neutral game aspect to it, then you can start playing that. And because teams don't really have a lot of practice against these kind of ideas, right? They don't, like, historically Overwatch has been sort of a mirror matchup, and whoever has just a better understanding of how to execute set plays, right? Okay, so we're gonna, especially during, you know, considering we came from the GOATS meta into the double shield, where it was really based a lot around ult cooldowns. The fact that we're now in a place where you can start to win in neutral fights without necessarily committing some of those ultimates and getting value, we're starting to realize that Overwatch may just be a little bit more flexible than we initially thought.
It's taken us a long time to get there, but we are now potentially in the era of flexibility, and you love to see it, LaFon. And another thing that you love to see if you're a fan of Contenders Trials is another match coming your way. And as luck would have it, we've got one of those coming up in the not too distant future. We're going to be seeing the Ultimates up against Shoes Money Crew. But whilst we get those guys into lobby ready to go, we are going to throw to a quick break. But don't
we do have a quick interview beforehand, though. So.
Oh, my apologies. Do you know what? My brain is all over the place, LaFon. So thank you for calling me up on that. It's quite right. We do have an interview.
Deadline coming in from the victors of our last match, and welcome, Deadline. Congratulations on your victory.
Hello. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, LaFon, how are you? Deadline. How are you feeling on the back of that one? It was quite a straightforward victory for you guys.
Yeah, honestly, we did a couple roster changes that were a bit unexpected, but it worked out in the end. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with the team's performance, honestly.
Give us a little bit of a look into you, if you're willing to share this information, I suppose. But it's not very common to see the Orisa Wrecking Ball sort of combo. What kind of brought that forward?
So we have a Pharah player that is pretty good at her, and our main idea of the composition, I guess, is just to try to keep the main tank, which is Orisa in this case, alive on the point, and for the Pharah to keep spamming until like we might get a pick or something, while the Hammond is just wreaking havoc basically in the back line. And yeah, from there we try to get a pick, and then we collapse on them.
So being as annoying as possible is essentially the goal of the...
Basically that's the plan.
So
just try to pick the most cancerous characters and see where that takes us.
There's no Mei there. There's no Mei though, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure you quite succeeded yet.
Maybe if they buffer a bit more, we'll consider it.
There it is. All right, what's next for you guys though? Right, obviously it's been a little bit of a difficult journey to get to this point, but you did take your first 3-0 and take your first win on the board. But what's next for your team here as you guys get set to round out Contenders Trials?
Well, we're just gonna try to win our next match and hopefully perform just as good as we performed today with Angry Titans tomorrow. That's our plan.
All right, keep the eyes on you, sort of say we do belong, our players do belong here at this level. So I guess my last question for you is Any particular shout outs, anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Definitely, I would like to shout out for Brain, our Orisa player. We never scrimmed with him. We never played any warm-ups with him. He just showed up on the game day and he performed very well, honestly. And I'm really proud
So,
of him.
hang on, sorry, just to clarify, this was Brain's first time playing with you today?
Yes, he was always on the roster, but he never played with us, and he performed top tier, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of natural Orisa talent to be able to turn up and put on a performance like that. So yeah, I'm gonna join you in that in shouting out Brain. That's a heck of a performance.
Yeah, and Jasafina's Torb, not a DPS player. That's my last shout out.
Okay, it's interesting to know that on one of the last 2 days of play, you've got a couple of different people coming in, off-rolling, no experience with you, and you've put on that level of performance. Well, can't wait to see how that works out for you in the rest of your games coming forward and across the contenders environment for the rest of the year. But Deadline, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to let you return to your team and continue celebrating this first win, and we look forward to seeing how you do tomorrow.
Yep, thank you very much. Goodbye.
And now that I'm confident we don't have anything else before the break, just a little fun.
You could absolutely interview me just to throw you under the bus just a little bit more. No.
Look, I've been under this bus for a long time, Lafon. It's a longer bus than anybody expected, and I'm going to have to throw it to a break just so that it can finish driving over me. So, guys, join us after the break where we will have the Ultimates against Shoes Money Crew. And with any luck, I'll be out from under this bus. Don't go too far, because we'll be back very soon. Welcome back, everybody. The bus has now passed me by. I'm free to stand up and make my way over towards the next game, which is going to be the Ultimates up against Shoes Money Crew. I remain Big Hungry Phil. With me still is Lafon. And Lafon, what do you make of this matchup?
Ultimates versus Shoes Money Crew. This should be a good one. I mean, we've been talking about, you know, the top end of Contenders trials and who really belongs there, and now we're finally starting to see matches that this is a match that actually has some potential to make a difference in terms of who makes it to Contenders and who doesn't. There is some real stakes in the line here.
There really is. So the Ultimates currently sitting at the number 2 slot in the group. There is a world where if they lose against Shoes Money Crew and they lose their game tomorrow, then that second place position is very much up for grabs. And Shoes Money Crew and Morning Stars are the two teams looking to take that second place off of the Ultimates. The Ultimates need to show up here. I think realistically a win is probably good enough for them here, but they probably want as many maps on their side as possible just to really cement that position.
Yeah, and I mean, you're not catching first place. Very unlikely at this point if you are the Ultimates in your group, right? Because we're looking at Avoided as being that number 1 seed coming out of this group B. Shoes Money Crew, though, they're still looking to play spoiler. They are at a 1-2 right now, heading into this match, and they're below both Samsung Morning Stars, who they played up against yesterday and lost in a 3-2, a very close game. That could have gone either way. We went down to the last map, the last round. So Shoes Money Crew looking for sort of that revenge, that return to form, and trying to drag the Ultimates down to that 2-2 with them as well. So this does have a lot to be said. If you go 3-1 for the Ultimates, you've looked a little bit closer to punching your ticket. For Shoes Money Crew, though, you could easily play spoiler here.
You really could, and when you consider that Shoes Money Crew, who have already played the top seed in the bracket here, they've kind of got their worst performing match out of the way already. In theory, the Ultimates are an easier team, and the thing to consider about the Ultimates compared to Avoided is that what we've seen from the Ultimates so far is that they are typically playing that double shield comp meta. So the reason Shoes Money Crew kind of fell over against Avoided was they were struggling to find answers to the Avoided comp. They don't have to worry about that here. Now they can just come up against what should be a fairly predictable comp.
You say that.
I'm looking at it too, and I've
but
got
I mean,
some questions.
we did see a lot of, actually, on this point. Keep in mind, this is Oasis University. We did see a lot of brawl played out here yesterday on Oasis. So I'm not necessarily surprised that we are going to see it here. It's once we get to, you know, City Center or not downtown Garden that we start to see, is there going to be a change in sort of style. But overall, it's going to be a double shield here from the Ultimates, as they're going to play the Mei, not the Genji. But other than that, just a regular old double shield poke comp here from the Ultimates.
Yeah, I like the fact that we've got two different takes on the Mei comp here, but early positioning now available for Shoes Money Crew. They've got the position on the point, and it's up to the Ultimates to try and make their way in. But they've now got to know that FaZe is on the Mei, and that getting split out here spells disaster for them. But the Ice Block has already come out for FaZe, despite having done a lot of work to get this going. Wall comes out, but we get the Immortality field in over the top from Sir Majed, but it's not enough to keep Henningsen alive. And so far, Shoes Money Crew have not been pressured heavily off of the point, and they will secure the first capital farm.
Yeah, we actually got to see that fight from A10's perspective as they get the cleanup kills here, and you could see how conservatively he was playing with that bubble, with that projected barrier from the Zarya. Didn't use it. You can see that A10's job here is not really to be the pressure, not really the one who's going to be dealing with damage. They're actually playing a lot more around Hades and FaZe as being the two damage dealers. A10's job here is just to cleanse the freeze. So an adaptation early from the Zarya that's really starting to pay dividends as they don't really let Hades get frozen at all.
And I think it's a really smart move as well. We don't see the Zarya typically used for that. She's often the tip of the spear. And FaZe gets the Blizzard out early. Immortality field and shielding, and the Fortify forced out here from the Ultimates. The Shadow comes through from Hades, puts 2 on the ground, and now A10 has a bit of charge to play with. We'll get the pick onto Chucky Milk. 50% and climbing now for Shoes Money Crew.
They did lose Bijou in the start of that fight, so he's going to be back just a little bit later than expected, and that's going to allow the Ultimates to actually keep this fight going. But Graviton Surge coming online in a moment here. Bijou goes down.
Bijou goes down just as he was returning to the point. and we get the flip. In fact, Shoes Money Crew so heavily out of this fight that they don't even contest this coming through. We've got to see them go for a quick reset here, but it's great that they got the Blizzard out at the back end.
Yeah, and if they can get A10 to keep his energy here too, then this is even better. And they're actually going to... Oh, and if Bijou stays alive, this is really good. Not only... Yes, they're going to lose that fight, but that's all right. Kumar does go down. That's a little unfortunate. But they do lose the fight, and they lose the point percentage, but they get the Blizzard, which I think is one of the bigger ones, especially against a Reinhardt comp, and they keep A10 at 100 energy, so he doesn't have to reset now in this next engagement. He's going to be able to use his grab at will and still be able to put damage through it. So as long as you dodge the gravitic flux here, you're okay.
That's right. Well, early pick already. Fees able to find Henningsen. The flux will come through. Won't find too much value. And I'm looking at the blade. I'm looking at the Graviton Surge. We might not even see the combo come through here. It's not stick and ball. It's just stick here for Bijou. Gives them all a whipping with it. And that will be the flip here for Shoes Money Crew.
And a really efficient retake too, right? Because you only have to... It's a lot of just replying to what the ultimates are using, not necessarily what... You know, you're not forcing the issue. It's the ultimates who played aggressively, and instead, it's Shoes Money Crew who just replies in force. Now on the retake, the Graviton Surge, and if necessary, the Blizzard as well.
Yeah, potential Snow Globe on the cards here. Ideally, you'd like to get a couple of picks of those individually and not stack them. Hades with yet another space control ult here. Graviton Surge comes out. Hades closes the distance, starts to swing in the hammer, but leaves the backline undefended. Bijou caught out there by the Bob into the backline, and Hades focused down by Fuki himself. So at 99%, we're looking to see the flip here from the ultimates.
And I didn't see it, but the Blizzard was used at some point in the fight. They didn't get any value from it, so that is not an efficient way of using those two abilities, as we got 0 kills between both. And now you need to reset here. And I mean, you know, we talked how good the Blizzard was. This time around, Kassar plays by virtue of not having it, does not use it in that previous fight. So you're going to be able to stall out this next one. And assuming you get a kill off this Blizzard, then you're looking at last fight territory in the Ultimate's favor. They've brought themselves back even in this map.
Yeah, if you Shoes Money Crew, you want to get in, and you want to get in fast to force that out and have as much time in the neutral as possible. But that's another way round of doing it. Kassar plays goes down, and I believe the Blizzard was interrupted in the middle of the cast there. Now both Immortality Fields down. Hades goes for the charge, but gets interrupted by the wall and then by the rock. And now he's going for the charge, but up into the air. Antigone just gracefully goes out of the range of his hammer. But there's been space bought here for Shoes Money Crew, and they found a couple of picks on the back end. The wall from Fees stops the recontest coming through, and there's the flip. And suddenly things turn around here for Shoes Money Crew. Antigone's able to get a pick. Fees has the Blizzard more or less on board, ready to go. Can completely stuff up this choke and stop the recontest in its tracks. It's gonna go out. The wall out now as well. We're gonna see Antigone frozen up and taken out there by the pin. But Fees, unaware that Kassar Players was back in on the Doomfist, goes down as well. And now Kassar Players has really come alive here for the Ultimates. Finds two, buys the space with Sir Magic to get two of their own. Finds a second one, gets the flip and rounds the fight out. That was heroic stuff from Kassar Players.
Kassar coming in with the Doomfist and making it look easy. He gets the right pick every single time. Finds the low HP Lucio and then just snowballs that in. Finds the Mei. Pun definitely not intended there. And goes into it. I mean, Kassar Plays, not only does he actually get the 4 kills to end the fight, he also is actually the first pick-off that makes that a contestable fight to begin with, right? After the Blizzard, or before the Blizzard is laid down, Kassar actually gets an elimination. And so the Ultimates, with no real right to be in that round, off the back of just brilliant play using the clock, equalize the point, and then just heroics from Kassar at the end to take the map.
Yeah, by the time you're in that like overtime contestation, you can't plan around the Doomfist. You've just got to respond in the moment. And if he starts finding picks, that's it. It's your ability to respond completely decimated.
Evolution here is Hades is going to go over to Winston. Again, we've seen this comp from Shoes Money Crew yesterday. So not a surprise. They like to wait and surround, scout out as they send the Winston in.
That's going to be good. Antigone just gets absolutely melted. The spray down there from Feast takes him out, but it is tank for tank here as Kassar will deal with the Winston and then goes over the top to find Feast. He's in a great position now to capitalize on the halt and start to find damage. He's at 60% towards the Dragon Blade already as he goes toe-to-toe with his opposite number, finds another dash reset, and you cannot count the ultimates out as long as Kassar is still alive, it seems.
Kassar has actually been impressing me through his time in his recent Overwatch career, right? We think back to the previous teams he was on, and then sort of how he's evolved as a player and gotten better. A long-standing member of the of EMEA, and only recently now in just on Ultimates has been looking much better mechanically on the Genji, and has been, I think, a real standout here for the Ultimate.
Yeah, he's certainly been doing a lot of work, and now with the rally over the top to help him out, likely be doing even more work. But through the nano boost and the pressure provided by A10 at high charge, we see the early pick coming through, and Fuki's going to go down. There are ultimates to play with here for the ultimates, but we're seeing Shoes Money Crew pull the trigger on them first, and Kassar plays, pulls out the blade, but receives the anti-nade to the face for his trouble. There's the supercharger down, and Bijou pulls out the blade at the last minute, and I kind of don't think he needed that one, Lafon.
No, he absolutely did not. And Henningsen is more than okay dying to the blade, because you lost. Not only did you lose the fight, and you get an ultimate, you deny your HP as ult charge because the blade is the one that kills you. So, a curious choice there from Bijou to be sure.
Definitely. And, you know, I'm looking at the fact that we've got a Graviton Surge and an EMP available for Shoes Money Crew. That's really tricky for the Ultimates to find a way around, frankly. Those two shut down this team entirely.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a fight that you probably should lose. It's not about if you're going to lose it. It's more about how badly do you, because you need to lose really badly so you can come back in with even numbers.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the Graviton Surge out. One pick on the back of that already. Ultimates looking to make their way out of the point, but Antigone thinks he spots an opening and able to find a kill with the Gravitic Flux. Suddenly, the Ultimates in a fight they were a man down in start to claw their way back, and Kassar finds the double here, halting A10 back into the line of fire of Antigone as they try and escape the point. It's a very quick flip here for the Ultimates.
So when I said that they needed to lose it a lot harder, the thought process there was that you wanted the Graviton Surge and the Graviton Surge and the EMP both used. But weirdly, it's actually the EMP used to try and deny the Gravitic Flux, but it's too slow.
Oh, we're going to see Bijou with the early blade out here, able to find one, deals with the immortality field, but fails to deal with the high noon. Fuki takes him out of the fight, but Shoes Money Crew now with a numbers advantage and with an angry Winston on the field, starting to bring themselves back into that fight. One last jump and a flip back in to deal with Fuki, and we've flipped it back over here for Shoes Money Crew.
This has been a curious evening of the retakes on this Oasis map. I was praising Kassar plays earlier, but his blades have needed work. So his neutral game has been really good. The Dragon Blades, not so much. There's only the rally now here available for Shoes Money Crew, and it's going to be mirrored out by Chalky Milk. So Henningsen is going to have the advantage definitely with his supercharger to blow through the defensive ability of Shoes Money Crew.
But it's got to be careful because, of course, we've got dive DPS here. It's quite easy to get around behind the shield and deal with it, either hack it out or just destroy it. Oh, right, and Chalky Milk gets the opener. The amplifier, the supercharger already on field for Henningsen means that is a huge amount of damage coming their way. Gravitic Flux comes through, slams them down, looking for the follow-through there with the Hyperspheres. Kassar plays, gets the dash, runs through both supports, and we're at 91 to 89. It's not looking good for a recon test here for Shoes Money Crew.
No, and A10 is actually so lucky that Graviton Surge even got out. Never mind the fact that he didn't get any kills, but it should have been denied by Antigone. Instead, it's just going to be a reset here as the delayed stall comes in. It's not enough.
As a valiant effort there from Kumba got onto the point and started surfing, but Fuki just tracks him down and deals with him, and that is going to be the shutout there. 2-0 on Oasis for the Ultimates to start out the series.
2-0, and I mean, realistically, it should be 1-1 after these two rounds, but a good recontest on University to send this one back to the favor of Ultimates. As you know, it was a close first round. It was very close, and I think realistically, Shoes Money Crew were an advantage a lot of the time, but a good read and done just a heroic play by Kassar Plays on the Doomfist to close it out. So Credit to him for bringing that one in, and credit to the Ultimates for a really well played second round where they shut down that composition that shut down the style of composition that Shoes Money Crew was trying to run. Right? We saw them play that Winston Zarya Sombra specific dive composition on the City Center yesterday in their match against Samsung Morningstars. And Samsung Morningstars had no response for it. They weren't unable to sort of find a window in. But Kassar plays, tracks down the Sombra multiple times, and Fuse just gets no value with the Sombra. So you realize that with the Sombra being shut out, it's a 5v6 essentially for a lot of the time. And the Ultimates, a better reset and a better understanding of their win condition to close out the map.
It's been really gratifying to watch the Ultimates really start to come into their own. So for those of you that maybe haven't been following this as closely as I have, the Ultimates are the core of the second generation Clockwork Vendetta roster. And that second generation Clockwork Vendetta roster never quite found the same level of success as the 1.0 variant of Clockwork Vendetta. Now they've had a bit of time to work together and to practice and to refine some of this. They're starting to look a lot more consistent, and I think we're probably going to see them, if they can hold on to this roster, consistently up in trials, if not contenders, for the foreseeable future.
There is some real promise for the Ultimates to be a team that makes a splash at the contenders level, especially considering who they've had on their roster. A lot of contenders experience here. Henningsen, I think, as a main tank, has been a prolific member of Contenders Europe, stepping back, won Contenders Europe under the banner of HSL, and then made it to Korea, where he played in the Gauntlet. That one was less.
Let's not think about that one.
Less
Let's not think about that
certainly. One. But that just means it shows the level of experience that the Ultimates have as players. A lot of LAN experience, which in this pre-times we had those some experience with the best players in the world at the contenders level. So certainly I have high expectations for these players, and it really comes down now to execution in terms of a consistent showing, because it's easy to play up against one or two teams and look okay. Now you start have to saying, okay, in our groups, we need to start being that 3-0 team, that 4-0 team in contenders trials in our group. So that's this next step for the Ultimates. It's not, are they going to perform? It's how consistently is that going to happen?
And I think there's a world here where if avoided with their particular style of play and sheer cold with just their overall synergy and this high level performance they can bring out on this double shield comp, if they'd stayed up in contenders, we could be looking at the Ultimates being the top of this group. The level of talent is really there. It's taken a while to get on board, but now that it's there, it's a joy to behold.
I think the next step for the Ultimates is that it's no longer, okay, if this team stays in contenders, then we're the best in our group, right? They need to, as a squad, start saying that we are the best group in contenders trials, and it doesn't matter who's in contenders, because we need to fight them, right? Yeah. The next step is not, can we be the top of contenders trials? The next step is, can we consistently be a threat in contenders proper?
It's the old how to get better at Overwatch chestnut, really. Is don't play for your level, play for the level above you, because if you play for your level and fluke your way up, the people that are at that level are just going to knock you back down a peg. So you're completely right on that, Lafon. They're going to have to start playing at the contenders level, and I believe the talent is there. But we are rolling into our next map, and it's going to be Volskaya, our assault map for today, and the Ultimates starting out here on defense.
The real curiosity here is, with this comp, okay, so for Shoes Money Crew, they're all playing a variant that is expected from them. We saw it on City Center of Oasis, but they did play it quite a bit yesterday in general, and it did decently well at shutting down what Samsung Morningstars was trying to bring to the table. So there was an adaptation. Obviously, it did not work on Oasis, so we'll have to see how FaZe is able to get value here in this next map.
Oh, that's a nice rotation, Pennies. I actually haven't seen that one come out before, but we'll take the reverse position here and start to pressure the tanks of Ultimates around back into the low ground behind this mini-pack room. So I think they weren't expecting the Winston into the backline. I certainly wasn't. Beachu's going to take a bit of flack there as Hades takes the high ground here. This is actually a great kind of pincer movement coming out from Shoes Money Crew. They're putting a lot of pressure on the Ultimates right now.
The one difference here is the win condition for Shoes Money Crew is kind of this issue is not really being allowed to farm. Kasar plays is holding him at bay pretty well. And despite the fact that Kasar has to play along against A10 Zarya, you can see that Bijou is playing it super passively because of how much threat is being generated.
Wow, look at the amount of damage already thrown into Shoes Money Crew. It's allowed Sab to find this nano boost already, and he throws it into Hades, and Hades is finding picks with it. There are 2 down, and Kasar players will need to come up in a specifically big fashion here to really bring this one back. And it's not looking likely. He's starting to find frags, but he's without a large number of his teammates, but he's got the blade online, and he deals with Bijou. Kasar, against all odds here, has found a way to turn this back. He's almost single-handedly stopped SMC getting any progress on the points.
This is still really anyone's fight. The Primal Rage is going to be the difference maker. If Hades doesn't go down, then they'll take this.
Man, I was ready to call this right the other way, but Henningsen has found a couple of picks here, but they just can't seem to catch a break. For every 2 picks that the Ultimates find on the defense, Shoes Money Crew find another 2 on the offense, and they are still grinding this one out as Bijou deals with Chalky Milk. They've got their feet firmly planted on the point, and we're looking at the cap here.
The difference there was definitely Hades getting the Primal Rage, because that's just a lot more pressure that can be absorbed in terms of damage, right? When you only have DPS in the field, there's not a lot of health pools available, but so it's all about if you can burn through the opposition. The Primal Rage denies that.
That's unfortunate there. Fuki able to get an entry frag there onto Fees, stops them momentarily pushing through to B, but that's 10 seconds that isn't really that impactful when you've got a 4-minute 30-second time bank.
So speaking of that 4-minute 30-second time bank, the win condition here is, and I would very much expect Shoes Money Crew here. Oh, Fuki is doing a great job of just denying Fees entry. I would very much expect this to be the Nano EMP Blade into Graviton Surge. You need to win this fight out right now, because if you lose this fight, then you are going to spend a lot of time just trying to grind away to regenerate.
It is such an obvious win condition that the Ultimates have to know that it's coming their way. They've got to be playing away. They've got to be playing in a separated fashion, but they're not quite far enough apart. But luckily, we will see the Immortality Field come out, but it's not been enough here. Beej was able to find Sir Magic. There's the Graviton Surge. It's staggered in after the Nano Blade and after the EMP to get a couple more frags, but they've not been given permission to cap this point just yet. The Ultimates are still looking to get some form of recontest here, and we're seeing Stole Heroes come out to swap over onto the Wrecking Ball. Kasar plays now has the blade, and one more time, he really pulls out the magic wand of a blade here and shuts down Shoes Money Crew's offense.
And the Ultimates are going to take a moment to breathe, but that was not panicked at all. It looked really casual from the Ultimates. That was the fight that realistically should have been in Shoes Money Crew's favor. That should be the fight that Shoes Money Crew just cemented this point and really started putting themselves back in this series. But they barely got half the point, 40%. The Ultimates are playing extremely calmly under pressure, and that's spectacular patience there from Kasar to get the blade and retake with his tanks.
Yeah, he could have tagged into that point that little bit sooner and just maybe denied a fraction of a percentage of capture, but honestly, staying back and being patient and getting the blade ready to win the fight was the play, and he did that with aplomb. The only problem now for the Ultimates is they've only really got the Pulse Bomb online, and Shoes Money Crew are getting closer and closer to a repeat of this win condition. The only thing they're going to be missing is the Graviton Surge, but they're playing very slow for now, and Ultimates being given time to farm.
And the Nano Boost onto Winston, Hades.
Yeah, getting into the back, will spend some time burning down that Immortality Field, allowing Bijou to find Kasar. EMP comes through as well, and suddenly it's a lot harder to get out of the way of the Primal Raging Winston, and Shoes Money Crew now looking a lot more firmly ensconced on the points.
Yeah, there's going to be a stall here, but it's not going to be of any real value. Kasar has a blade and a 5% though.
Right, we've seen him pull out bigger magic tricks than this, but he's being pressured now. He's being forced away from the point, and Bijou comes up with a blade of their own and deals with Kasar. That was a big recontest option for the Ultimates that's now off the table. They're tagging back in, but it's a hiding for nothing. They're just burning time. Kasar is unlikely to get in a position to use the blade.
I will say, though, the fact of the matter is 134 is a really, really poor time bank, considering the one fight that Shoes Money Crew should have won when they were at 4.5 minutes. So the 3-minute stall is still really good for the Ultimates. And I think, now it's set for their attack as Shoes Money Crew. things are still, even though that time bank with the capture percentage, things are still looking a little bit, in my opinion, dire for Shoes Money Crew. SMC, this should have been a lot more dominant, especially considering what their resource bank looked like.
It was really unfortunate to be coming into point B with EMP, Nano Boost, Dragon Blade, Graviton Surge, any two of which could really have rounded out that team fight.
And Rally.
And in Rally, yeah, like that should have been won. And I kind of want to go back and watch that tape. I want to see the replay because Ultimates played in such a dissipated, in such a disparate way, playing away from where the EMP would really get everybody and secure that value. That they had to know that was coming, and for Shoes Money Crew, that was disastrous.
There's a couple things that happened there too, right? It's that the Dragon Blade, the Nano Blade combo only got 1 kill. Right, it was kited extremely well. The EMP was kited extremely well. The Graviton Surge was kited extremely well. So when you kite 3 different abilities that well, you're obviously going to buy yourself a chance to recontest. Because I think between all 5 ultimates, there was 2 kills got it, which is not ideal. Kassar opened up on the Widow, but he's just scouting. He's going to switch now to the Genji again. Yeah.
Early scout would have been nice to get an early pick and just snowball the point from there, but obviously a lot easier to make the Genji work in this situation. No changes from Shoes Money Crew just yet.
Is Fuki looking for the Sombra? I think he might have been, yeah.
Yeah, Sombra's going to get her way out of that. Fees with a little 12% ult charge on that one.
Fuki's going to swap to something else tier 2, I think. Are we getting a different look here from... Yeah, he's going
there
to
we go, on to the McCree. Yeah, classic.
This is really this is not for fees, weirdly enough. This is actually, if you get a side effect of that, that's good, but it also puts a lot more pressure on Hades being unable to dive nearly as aggressively.
Yeah, there's now a couple of different tools here that shut down that dive in a very terminal way if you're Hades, so you're going to have to play a lot more conservatively, play a little more on the front line. He's taking a lot of pressure here, down to about half health, dragged in, but gets away into his healers. But gives up a lot of space here, and Fees gets caught out. We'll see Sam with another incredibly early nano boost here, relying on Hades to try and get something done with it. Won't find picks, but it's bought him time to generate the Primal Rage. But he's got to be careful here because he may just turn into ult charge if he can't start to find picks. Antigone and Kassar have already got through with Hades. It falls incredibly low. He might get this frag onto Kassar, but they're already bleeding Shoes Money Crew here. The Ultimates have this in hand, and we're looking at an easy cap for them.
And not only was that an easy cap for them, they actually have the chance to just close out the map right here, right now. The big impact resources that you need to stop the push are not going to be available as the fight starts. They'll be available mid-fight, but that might be too little too late. So Kumar's gonna have to pull a miracle out with this rally to sustain long enough to get, the Dragon Blade online, to get the Graviton Surge online. It's time that I don't necessarily think the Ultimates are going to give them.
I like this from Foki. He opens up with the Deadeye, and it forces Shoes Money Crew around away from the point and gives the Ultimates a nice, clear line in. Kassar holding on to the blade for now, and he gets in and finds Fees and takes him offline. Bijou with a blade of his own deals with the Immortality Field and finds Antigone, finds Shocky Milk, and that was the ultimate they really needed here. It shuts down the Ultimates on their way through, and now the Ultimates are without 2 of their key resources that they had on the way through.
That was a really good rally. That was what they needed to win, right? They needed that rally to buy time to put pressure so that Bijou could get to the blade and A10 could get to the grab. Only one was needed to win that fight too, as Chalky Milk's rally was not nearly as good. So a credit to Kumar for buying time there, even with these going down. So the one thing here now is that this is going to be all about who goes first in the push, because the EMP is gonna be able to shut down a lot. So if they scout out the EMP, right, which they should, if the Ultimate scout out the EMP, then how are they going to approach this fight? Are they going to try and rush past it, or are they going to wait to absorb it and lose? Here comes the side effect, side hack.
Yeah, we'll take Fuki offline ability-wise for a small amount of time here. And another Primal Rage from Hades, but he gets stunned and he gets focused down. EMP as well is going to find 5, but it doesn't get Fuki, who will be able to pop the High Noon here and finds Pumbo. Chalky Milk takes Fees off the table, and Kassar's got a blade, chases down Sab, but as he leaves the point to chase down Sab, There's damage being done here by Shoes Mini Crew onto the ultimates on the point. They're still in this, but the stalls are now coming through, and Bijou manages another blade here that deals with Sir Magid. Shoes Mini Crew are going to win this one out, but you've got to be happy here with the ultimates because that's a lot of utility taken off the table for the next push through.
It's now Rally versus Supercharger. That's really what's the difference maker here. As this next fight sort of sets up, the question I think is usually I would give the advantage to the Supercharger because of how useful it is as a resource. But with defensive positioning on Assault, then you can start to say, okay, the Rally is now going to be able to just prevent an aggressive setup of this Supercharger. And with that being the case, that means that the Supercharger could be easily destroyed. So I would say I have to give advantage to Coomer if the Rally gets online.
Well, Henningson's going to go first with that Supercharger, but we need a little bit of aggression now to come through from the ultimates to try and capitalize on that. Kumba's still a handful of percentage away from having the Rally ready to go, but now has some targets to get some healing onto, but Henningson takes him offline before that can materialize. The hack's going to come through, but there's nobody there with the follow-through, and the ultimates, they water their way onto the point, and they are looking to cement their hold onto it here. Antigon looking for somebody to lift up, but that is going to be it, and a near 30-second advantage in time bank for the ultimates.
Not as great as a time bank differential as I think. You know, I've said this now about both teams, but on the walk-in, it was really just the shutdown from Coomer on the Rally that allowed Shoes Money Crew to be back in this time bank wise. 30 seconds, not a whole lot of time.
No.
So credit to Coomer, the Brig player, for doing a spectacular job of buying time the first time around, at least. As it looks as Shoes Money Crew now head to their own attack.
Yeah, Kuma doing very good work on the Brig for somebody that I know for a fact would much rather be playing Lucio. So hats off to Kumba for dealing with it and spending his time in Brig jail.
He gets to experience what Flex
DPS players did for a year. Yeah. How'd you like it now? Going to see this early adaptation from Fuki coming in on the McCree here, which was starting to find a lot of value for them on their offensive run through.
Again, it's so hard as the Winston to take a hard dive onto the back line when you know there's no less than 3 stuns that can kind of shut you down.
Yeah, one of them's going to hit you.
Eventually, exactly. So
yeah,
and that's
you can run, you can hide. Eventually, the CC will find you.
Yeah. So that's the one difference. A lot of the win condition, though, is Sab getting the nano boost online, right? So if Hades goes down, then this becomes a different fight entirely.
Sab has been finding these incredibly quickly, and like if you just keep a weather eye on that, look how quickly this ultimate is starting to tick up. But well, Hades gets a little bit overconfident on that one, and suddenly the main resource for Sam to generate that ult through is gone, but they will find a pick onto Fuki, so when Hades does get back in, and he will be in that bit quicker, the dive gets that a little bit easier for them. Fuki's going to be coming back in on the Tracer, and Kazar finds Bijou, so this has got to be a hard, fast reset for Shoes Money Crew if they want another full go at this.
They will have exactly 1 fight remaining, and that is it. And I wonder now what they will be able to get to, sort of the key resources here: the Nano Blade, the Blade, and the Primal Rage. Do you get the Nano onto the Winston and try to use the Blade to clean up, or do you just go for the extreme win on the Nano boosted Dragon Blade? That's I think here for Shoes Money Crew.
Yeah, with 20 seconds to go, something's got to happen here, and we have seen it typically go on to Hades here to open up these fights, and that's exactly where it's going to land this time. And in the confusion, Feez is able to find the hack onto Kazar plays and takes him out. Bijou's about to get this blade online. Immortality Field is now down, but looks like they won't need the blade here. Looks like they're going to do this more or less in the neutral, and there are now a wealth of ultimates here from Shoes Money Crew to crack open point B.
Oh, this is going to be an explosive one, and it's all about operations here because both teams are going to have that 5 ult bank in this next fight. 10 ultimates available here. Phil, and I mean, if you're looking at this, the EMP is the one you got to keep an eye out on. One that can shut down everything that ultimates are bringing into this table.
I mean, we've seen very nearly this ult combo coming through from Shoes Money Crew on their push through in the first round here. Fees has got to find much more value with the EMP this time through. We'll see the pulse bomb out from Fruki, taking Sab offline. It's going to be down to Biju with the blade to try and equalize as quickly as possible. Kassar is interrupted in the middle of his own blade, and the kills now mounting up here for Shoes Money Crew. And it's Hades on the Winston, ducking and diving all over the point with the Tesla, Cal, and the Monkey with a dream, trying to make this work here for Shoes Money Crew. Fruki comes alive and will take Hades out of the fight. And Shoes Money Crew being whittled down to a 4% of their numbers on the point. Fiends refuses to lay down here, though. He's still finding picks, but it's down to Kumba with the sub HP to tag back onto the point. A10's going to be coming back in on the Wrecking Ball here, but it will be just the Wrecking Ball to try and keep this going for the remaining few seconds as the recon tests come through. But that's it. Overtime down, and no progress on point B for Shoes Money Crew. There's a win condition on the board here, Lafon, but there's a very real chance we see the draw here on Volskaya.
It's not out of the question here, and it's really the way this map works out is now going to come down to this first fight from the Ultimates, because if the Ultimates takes the fight in the first fight, right? Let's say it takes them 40 seconds. They bump up an extra 30 seconds, and suddenly you're looking at a minute half to take point B. So the first stick on point B. So the Ultimates, this first fight is going to be crucial to their chances of winning out the map.
And I don't think they were an awful lot quicker on their point A offense than we saw from Shoes Money Crew first time through. So, you know, the 30 seconds or so time advantage they've got, I feel like it doesn't really make a huge amount of difference. You're going to get the same number of fights.
The one difference is that it might be, weirdly, it might be that it takes a fight a little, so you have to use more ults to hold the point that Shoes Money Crew might do, and so then you head into second with less resources, right? That's sort of where you're saying maybe that's where we're coming into play with this. But again, that point B defense from the Ultimates was really strong, despite the better resource management from Shoes Money Crew. They don't use them effectively, so it's the Ultimates doing a great job of kiting in general, and it has been a difference maker in that point B quite significantly.
Sarplay's momentarily thinking about the Widow one more time here, but back over onto the Genji. They've got to be careful because Fees is currently in their backline and looking for a hack. Fruki spots a couple of members sat up on the high ground on the right-hand side, but takes a pot shot and keeps on rolling through. Rotation's going to come through, and with an expert teleport, that's going to be Fees dodging the flashbang and getting out of it, but likely to be another couple of seconds before they're back in the fight in a meaningful way. Ult starting to tick up ever so slowly for both of these teams, but it's Kassar Plays that finds the opening here. And once Biju's down, the tip of the spear is blunted, and Shoes Money Crew fall apart, and we're going to see Ultimates with a much more comfortable offensive round here. They've got a minute and 40 seconds to crack B.
That is the fight that you needed to take for Ultimates. That's as perfect a fight as it goes, actually, because you're now coming into the second point with giving Shoes Money Crew nothing, and you have 2 fights. So this is still remarkable, as Fees does not have the EMP, not even close, which is the one thing that I think could end a disaster here. So the Ultimates are in really good position now.
We're going to be looking for Sab to really open things up here with the nano boost. Expected to hit Hades one more time because that's where this has always gone so far. And it finds a whole galaxy of value as the kill feed lights up with Hades icon and they wipe the Ultimates off the map. But that was a quick fight loss for the Ultimates, and they will get to come back into this one.
This is actually starting to look pretty dire for the Ultimates because they're going to have to deal with a rally that's faster, a primal rage that can stall, and the Dragon Blade online already. So that all that does is it buys time for Fees to get to the EMP to shut down later stages of this fight. So this first pick off from the Ultimates cannot come fast enough, though they do scout Fees out.
Yeah, Fees was expertly scouted out there by Fruki, and Fruki finds Sab. Sab had no right to get caught out by that one, and we're going to see the D-Mech come through as well. The Winston dives in, but receives the flashbang and gets punished. Kassar Play pulls out the play one more time, finds the 4th of the dash reset. Fruki finds Biju, and that's going to be Ultimates getting the 1 tick they needed. That was expertly played by the Ultimates.
There is something to be said for execution over the supposed win, and all my commentary decides is that if you play both compositions to the ideal situation, it should be this one with the advantage. But I cannot speak to the execution of a team that does it better. And the halt combo there from Henningsen onto Fuki's Deadeye was the difference maker. Make no mistake about it. Make it an instant 5v6, and then you come in with the Supercharger Blade, and before anything can even be brought out by Shoes Money Crew, the Ultimates have already won the fight, and as a result are 2-0, setting themselves at match point here, and looking to take that next step to close out the series. That last fight was a masterclass in how to have a set play that allows you to win out a negative differential. Remember, they don't have advantage in resources, but used better and used quicker, the Ultimates are the reason why. That's the reason why they won out the map.
You've got to feel a little bit for Sab, who was the first domino in that last team fight to fall, because Sab has been putting up some phenomenal numbers. The speed at which he's been generating these nano boosts and the effect that the nano boosts have, particularly when put onto Hades, has been instrumental in the success that Shoes Money Crew have found here. And to so ignominiously go at the start of that final fight due to the whole high noon combo has got to feel really bad. And you've got to try and reinforce these guys that, you know, it's not a misstep from Sab. There's very little you can do to counterplay being halted into a high noon. It's very unfortunate.
No, that's not on Sab at all. I mean, the halt is such a powerful resource that, and to see it committed to one player. A lot of the times we see the halt being used as a sort of general, just collect people together. But that halt was very specifically for Sab and no one else. As we saw, the Fuki set up the Deadeye for Sab. We saw the halt go in for Sab, and that meant that Sab was going down. That was the Ultimate's goal in mind, and that's what they set out to do, and that's what they did.
Well, it looks like we are getting ready, Lafon, to go into what could very well be our final map of the evening, Hollywood. So we're going to be seeing the hybrid map coming out next. The Ultimates are, as you mentioned, at match point now. If they can get this one map, that's them taking the 3-0 and more or less securing their position as the team going forward into Contenders in the second place in the group. So Shoes Money Crew, they have the opportunity here. They're only 2 maps in. We could see the reverse sweep come through here, but they've got to start tightening some of these bits and pieces.
I think the biggest difference that has been between the Ultimates and Shoes Money Crew is who they've kind of set as their sort of point man, right? And who's been taking the brunt of the damage and how you kind of play around that. For Shoes Money Crew, it's without a doubt Hades. Hades has been playing what I would consider to be a tactical feed style. And make no mistake, there's nothing about his playstyle that's not an insult in any sense of the word. I do genuinely mean that. He's playing around the fact that they're generating Sab the nano boost very early, which then gives them the first fight win because you apply it to Hades, who keeps going, and it's a win more kind of idea, right? The problem is if you're not winning, then like we saw that happen on the second point. Actually, Hades plays up or second attack rather for Shoes Money or for the Ultimates. Hades plays up very aggressively, but this time he goes a little too far, and the stun comes in and it denies the ult resource generation for Sab. So it is you play that idea on a wire. It's a very, very thin margin of error, and when it works, it looks really good. When it doesn't work, it seems a little uncomfortable for Hades. And so I think for Shoes Money Crew, that's the tip of their spear, and then you play around that. BG needs to generate the blade afterwards, and you kind of clean up on the basis of that. For the Ultimates, there's no such thing. They're not really playing a spear so much as a mace. Just hammer as a 6-man unit the front line and see what happens. And so far, at least, it's that secondary idea that's been doing a little bit better in the score line of our series.
It's a little bit weird maybe to think about what is traditionally viewed as a very static comp with the Orisa, that, you know, if you're trying to move forward behind a shield, can only move in fits and starts, to be a composition that looks to run down the opponent, particularly when the opponent is as mobile as Shoes Money Crew. But that is exactly what they're doing here. Like, there's so much pressure available for the Ultimates as they move their way forward. Certainly
the case. It looks like we have a color swap here, actually. So
okay,
keep that in mind as we keep watching.
For those of you wondering about us commenting on the color swaps, that's not for you guys. That's for me. Lafon knows that I'm almost certainly going to miss that swap. So Lafon, thank you very much. Going to be seeing Shoes Money Crew starting here on the defense with their tried and tested Winston Zarya dive, and I'd like to see the hog roll out here from Henningsen, but I think it's not going to happen.
Sorry, just give me a second here.
Hey,
as I gotta
Okay, sorry guys, we might be experiencing a little bit of a technical difficulty. Whilst we're waiting for the font to come back in, I'll try and keep you as analyzed as I can in the action, but until that time, please bear with us. So, Bijou already giving up the low ground, but able to make the rotation here to deal with the ultimates, and the ultimates push not really coming through particularly quickly. I believe they were chasing Fees away in the background there, and Hades is having a fun old time camping down here on the low ground. And look, you can actually tell this is the tactical feed that the Fawn was talking about. Hades is just taking damage here. Knows the Kassar plays isn't going to get the pick, but sees an advantage and presses it and deals with Sir Madjet here. So 1-for-1 traders, Bijou is going to be going down. And defensive, offensive advantage here in terms of spawn, but it's a slow rotation here from the ultimates, and Shoesmany are able to find value. They're able to find ult charge the entire way through. He's able to find the hack there onto Henningsen and delete him from the points. Yeah,
and that's going to be a really a good hold from Shoes Money Crew in terms of the setup of their play. Remember, as you highlighted just there, send Hades in. But this time, the other thing they do is actually rotate the fight. So Hades is on the far end of the fight, and that opens up the backline for Sab to get the anti-nade in as well. So a very, very good execution on that particular play.
Looking good for Kassar plays, though. Will have this Dragon Blade ready to go. They've typically not been pairing this with anything too much, just pulling out and looking for a kill in the neutral. But speaking of neutral, A10 in with a high charge, and the rock over the top onto Antigon gets the opening pick, and it's back to spawn for the ultimates.
And that one nano boost actually buys 4 ultimates. You get the Zarya, you got the Winston, you got the Genji, and you're going to get Fees up to their resources. So, you know, there's a lot here for the defense to hold on to and get value out of. As on this next play, you're looking at how aggressively you go in. Well, that's a good start. Get the first pick.
Oh, nice placement there of the Graviton Surge. But the ultimates are able to find 3 and a 4th. What even happened there? That should have been Shoes Money Crew with an easy win, and the ultimates just say, no, you flip the Uno card, and they're getting this point for free.
If anyone's flipping the Uno card, it is actually Shoes Money Crew, as they use the EMP after losing 2 people.
Jeez. Quick reset, quick change for Fees.
That was not terrific showing there from Shoes Money Crew on the execute. I have to be honest with you, not a spectacular showing. That being said, it is a blade into a rally here for Kassar plays. He's going to need some assistance, and we'll see if they combo with the superchargers. That's really one of the things that can cut through.
Fuki takes a bit of damage on the way through and will get focused down by Kumba, but Kassar thinks he's got an opportunity here to level the playing field. It's going to be leveling the player field with a sharp instrument as Hades just multi-juggles Sir Madjet up into the corner, but overstays his welcome on that one. Will get the pick, but then gets picked himself. It's a tradey fight here, and the ultimates slightly coming out ahead here with the respawns in their favor. As the team comes back in, they're going to start to push forward and keep the cart rolling.
And I mean, that's you can see what I would call a soft reset there from the ultimates as they buy a little bit of space. Oh, hello.
This is unfortunate. A lot of damage being thrown into the small room there by A10, but he's going to have to back out. There's a lot of pressure coming their way, and somehow Fuki gets caught out by Bijou here. A10 pushing back through, has a lot of charge, has the projected and the personal barriers now down, so in a lot of trouble if caught out, but has the damage to pressure the ultimates back away from the point, and now has the Graviton Surge online. A10 doing a lot of lifting here for Shoes Money Crew.
Yeah, what a great retake from A10. He actually baits in Antigon actually in that fight. Antigon thinks that A10 has the Graviton Surge. A10 was only at 40% in that fight, right? At the start of it. So he baits out the kinetic grasp and then spends more time. The whole time, everyone thinks that A10 has the grab. He didn't even come close. He will have it now, but it's over.
Yeah, Bijou with the blade. Hades doing the damage with the nano boost, and moving faster than the eye can track it will be Bijou getting the picks on that one, and a hold here for Shoes Money Crew.
The first nano blade of the series as well. So that's something that'll just help you win more. Very well done. And this Graviton Surge now from A10 is actually going to play a little bit of a defensive role more than anything else. If you can get it and kind of deny Kassar plays the blade, because it's going to be the supercharger blade in my mind here for the ultimates. If he uses Graviton Surge to deny that push, then you're looking pretty good.
Oh, that's an early pick. Hades is going down. It's a 5v6 here for the Ultimates, and Cassar has the Blade online. It doesn't get caught out by the Graviton Surge, and now he's looking to try and pressure down A10 themselves. Knows that A10 was a huge problem in that last fight, and helps pressure them down with Henningsen. And we come out of this with 5 ults available here for the Ultimates. They only cost them the Blade to win the fight.
Yeah, all because Hades overstays just a little too long and has to reset now. So this is not ideal for Shu's Money Crew, as positionally they're at a disadvantage, and although equal in resource, equal in the bank, they are walking into a Gravitic Flux.
And we see the high noon up on the high ground as well from Fuki. Has a line in and finds the double. Biju caught out with his pants down without the reflect, able to deal that damage back. We'll see the Bob coming through, starts to find some picks. We'll deal with Antigon, but this high ground position with the amplification matrix works out incredibly well here for the Ultimates.
And this is pretty bad actually for Shu's Money Crew, because they don't have, I would say, enough to sustain through this next fight. You're gonna have a lot of HP available, as you have Hades with the Primal Rage, and you'll have the nano boost to put on him afterwards, but the Gravitic Flux is going to be here, the Rally is here, and so too is the Blade. So for Ultimates, it's... Oh, they blocked the grab!
Well, that's going to be the grab out. Hasn't had a huge amount of value, but that's significantly better. The hack comes through and cancels the Gravitic Flux. Nobody is dead yet from either side, and we've still got Ultimates being committed by Shu's Money Crew, but it's not doing anything to stop this payload rolling its way forward, Lafon.
The one saving grace is that if this map gets captured, it's going to be with less than a minute remaining. 21 minute 18 left on the clock. So Shu's Money Crew are trying to round out time here.
Yeah, they're looking to burn as much time as they can off of it. It's going to be Cassar to start things off as a 1-for-1 trade, as Hades is able to get Chucky Milk here, but Fees somehow tracked through that teleporter by Cassar and taken out with the Blade, has bought now the space for the Ultimates to push this the final few meters, but Cassar has overstayed his welcome on that one, and Kumba's able to work him down. So looking at a numbers advantage in this final fight for Shu's Money Crew.
And make no mistake, this is final fight, Phil, because now the setup comes in. You can see the soft reset as the Ultimates look for their team to rejoin them. And Shu's Money Crew now on continuing to just buy time.
Fuki buying some space here, needs to be careful, don't want to get baited in by the Blade. Beautiful job there by Shu's Money Crew to hide away from the high noon so that it can't find the value it was looking for. Fuki is still a threat, ultimate or no, finds Bijou and secures the 5v6, pours the damage into Hades away in the backline here, and can afford to just stand off card and spam their way in. It's the flashbang into the headshot, finds the kill they need, and that is the point tap for the Ultimates with a scant 8.9 seconds left in the bank.
And that is a very key time to think of, because if Shu's Money Crew completes the map, then that means that there will be extra rounds no matter what. So Shu's Money Crew, still, they were hoping to get down below that overtime marker, but they do not get it. So Shu's Money Crew, I mean, or sorry, rather the Ultimates, a real understanding of how to take that last fight, just the spacing, the timing from them was spectacular. And I think the one amusing thing of this round, though, has been the 2 failed gravity-based abilities.
Yeah.
Both blocked. One blocked by a shield, which we don't see very frequently, weirdly enough, and one hacked out of it. So,
you know, it's a complicated business harnessing the power of gravity, Lafon, and it doesn't always go to plan.
That's something I can remember very vividly from my physics classes.
We're going back a ways now. I thought you were going to say remember from your own ranked games, and yeah, I think we can all sympathize with that one maybe a little more than we can physics classes. What are we seeing here from... Okay, well, I thought with him being on offense, I could safely talk about this strange wrinkle coming out from Cassar, but he is going to go back to the Genji, and I got hard baited, Lafon.
As Cassar really has... Unless...
Interesting.
We'll see.
Okay.
It's not
off going with it.
Yeah, it's not off. Well, I mean, he has to now. The gates have already opened. Unless he decides, you know, the gates are open, I'm gonna go back to spawn and reset again. That's entirely possible, though unlikely.
Yeah, strange things have happened.
Certainly, I think now you're gonna put a lot more pressure on Fees, weirdly enough, because Fees has not had the greatest of times, sort of juggling his farming abilities. But we'll see if he continues it this time.
Ooh, BG with the early pick. Fuki down and out. Need a equalizer pick fairly quickly here from the Ultimates if they want to keep themselves in on the defensive. Kasar plays with the drop down, looking to find Sab, but can't quite manage it. Defensive bubble out from the Zarya to keep him from finding that pick. And we've already got more than half of the point cap. There's the second tick already on board. It's going to be down to Kazar to try and generate a little bit more control here as the respawns come through. Big anti-nade comes through from Sab as well. Won't allow Henningsen to survive through that. Antigon and Chalky Milk both taking a huge amount of damage. Fuki back in on the Reaper. Doesn't survive all that long. And we're looking at the cap coming through very quickly here for Shoes Money Crew.
I have to be honest, I'm not a fan of that Tracer pick from Kasar Plays. I don't really think he got a lot of value on that fight. And part of that's due to the early pickoff from onto Fuki, so you just have one Tracer providing all the DPS pressure. But still, I don't think nearly as effective as he was on the Genji. So we'll see if that continues to be a theme through the defense here for the Ultimates. But for Shoes Money Crew, this fight is theirs to take. They have nearly everything they need to steamroll this first fight. And I would really expect Hades to play extremely aggressively here to create pressure and buy space for Shoes Money Crew.
I mean, there's not really a lot that the Ultimates can do. The only thing they're anywhere near close to having is that Gravitic Flux. Nice rock there will displace A10 onto the low ground, but now they're going to be trying to fight their way into a rally for the Ultimates. They've got the high ground position, or had the high ground position. Hades, with a couple of opinions about that one, knocks them down onto the low ground. Kart's going to stall out for now, and BJ's looking for Vanny with the blade, but seems to have propped that a long way from anybody.
Okay, so remember when I said Shoes Money Crew should win that fight pretty easily because they just spent 3 ults for no kills.
There's the EMP, and it's a big one. It's going to get 5, but Kasar gets the bomb off, and there's a little bit of follow-up there. Kumba's going to go down, but with the Graviton Surge, that's the fight they were looking to win here. Cost them a bit more than it should, Lafon, but they are managing to get progress on the payload. Ultimate's likely to recontest just before the cap on B.
I mean, you just put it extremely mildly. Not more than they should have. It cost them literally everything. As you saw the Nanoblade get 0 kills alongside the Primal Rage. A retake is available here, and they're allowing them back in.
Interesting. They clearly think they've got a plan for this one. Maybe they aren't aware that Antigon has this Flux online. It's going to get the Brig up into the air. A10 will get the protected barrier onto Kumba to keep them alive, but A10 themselves is going to get focused down here. And Antigon swinging wildly, looking for where the damage is coming from. Drop down onto the low ground, ready to contest. The Cartons looking like a win here for the Ultimates as the High Noon gets popped and deals with Fees. Hades committed the Primal Rage and still died through that, feeding over a significant chunk of ult charge.
Yeah, I mean, this time around, though, it is about even in terms of the fact that the Ultimates actually had to use quite a bit to reset that. They're not really going to have much in the way of just a fight-swinging resource beyond the Pulse Bomb. So what we're looking for here is Kasar plays to get a hero stick here and kind of deny out this push as it starts because the Nanoblade is available for Bijou. No, it isn't.
No, well, oh, big stick as well. Only finds Kumba, but the damage is done. The fight is over before it could even start here. Interesting that we've got A10 now moving over onto the D.Va, though, Lafon.
Yeah, and he's played D.Va a little bit in this series, but...
Hades thought he was on his way out. He was not expecting the flashbang or the follow-through there from Fuki. That's terrible.
You have no idea how hard it is every time Hades dies to not make a joke about him heading to the underworld.
I don't know why you're stopping yourself, Lafon, honestly.
Well, technically I made the joke there, but now it's been once, so I can't do it again. That's a little...
Yeah, it'd be over until the next time.
Yeah. Nanoblade is available with the rally to keep him alive, though, for Bijou, so it's all about that pickoff, and they're looking for the well-known scout.
Well, blade out from Bijou, gets knocked onto the low ground, finds a slash through, finds the dash through, gets the double Immo down as well. But a big punchback here from Kasar plays, lobs in the bomb, finds the double, and all of that work done by Bijou amounts to naught.
And it was actually only 2% of 1% actually HP remaining for Bijou at the end of that blade too. So he was, it was close to being a non-factor, but just this has been particularly egregious from Shoes Money Crew. I cast a doubt on Kassar Plays' Tracer at the start of the round when he didn't do anything on first point, but he's come alive in a big way since then and has really been a difference maker in multiple fights. So credit to him as well for bringing that one back. A good pulse bomb to keep the ultimates in play. And now we're in last fight territory. There's only a minute left on the clock.
Yeah, we came in with a huge amount of time here. That is a phenomenally sized EMP. That's the sort of thing that the Pentagon recruits you for. But once more, it fails to materialize in picks. And with the pulse bomb and the primary fire from the rest of the ultimates, Shoes Money Crew crumble like so many crushed biscuits.
And I think even worse than that is it did not cost the ultimates anything. And we're looking at last fight now with basically everything in the bank for the defense. They use the Deadeye and they use the Rally. So this is looking like curtains for Shoes Money Crew.
The one thing they have in their favor for Shoes Money Crew, if they can get this online in the next 15 seconds, is there is the possibility of a Dragon Blade. And we've seen these come up clutch before. We could see them make it through to point C here if it's online on time.
There's the Nano Boost is available as well. This is the hero play you need. It's the Hail Mary right now, the Nano Blade.
Antigon knocked off the high ground, but we will, of course, have the Gravitic Flux. It comes out. Beej is able to find one. He's able to find the double here. The Flux doesn't come through in the way that the Ultimates needed it to happen. And as the kill comes through onto Henningsen, we've got possession of the cart here for Shoes Money Crew. And at the last possible second here, we're looking at the cap on B. But it's going to be a very difficult task for them to complete the map outside of overtime.
Certainly, and I think they're gonna get stagger kills here, which is gonna allow them a chance at actually keeping this going in their favor, because now you're gonna have at least 2 fights here at the very end of the map, right? And that's what you needed to do to actually get a chance of completion. So this is gonna be close. You're gonna see Fee's gonna try and farm this EMP. He's gonna have it for 1 fight. This EMP needs to win this fight out very cleanly, because otherwise Shoes Money Crew are liable to be held.
It's looking like that might be the way this goes here. Kassar Plays will have the pulse bomb ready to go. He's found a lot of value with these previously. Right now, he's kind of playing bodyguard duty up on the high ground. He knows that there are people looking to get the wrap around and get a different angle in on the defensive position. He's now got to be careful because he's got to get it in around that defense matrix. And the last thing you want to do is lose that ultimate here in the final few seconds of the map. We're down now at the 34-second mark. Nobody really committing to this fight just yet. Ultimates want as much time burn off this before taking this final fight as possible. They want to ensure there's only one good fight here for the Ultimates. EMP's ready on the board. Fee's looking to pull the trigger any second now. Not going to pop it just yet. There it is. It's going to hit 3. Henningsen, Fuki, and Sir Majid all hacked out, but it's going to be Hades that goes down first here. Fuki able to proc the Deadeye here. Has 1 in his sights, but gets swept from downtown by Sab. And Fee's is starting to punch things back here. But we're going to see an overtime cap if indeed the cap can come through at all. There's the Flux through, and a minefield committed as well by Hades. Tumba's able to work down Antigon as they bring the rally online. It's looking good for a cap here, but the amplification matrix out from Sir Majid is going to prompt a significant amount of damage and sustain through onto the team as they're contesting the cut. And it's so difficult to work down the rally. Beautiful jump there with the moon boots from Sir Majid to get out of the way of the blade into his own immortality to be able to survive through that. And Ultimates are not out of this just yet. They've got the respawns in their favor, and they're starting to find picks here. The respawn so much heavier here for Shoes Money Crew. And as we are deep into overtime here, the kills are coming through. It's down to Kassar to try and whittle down these last few members. And as Hades disappears to the high noon at the last possible second, Ultimates, they bring out the win in the fight and take the win in the series through a 3-0 scoreline, LaFon.
And if that first fight on the defense was Kassar Plays not committing enough, I think the last fight was the exact opposite. Kassar Plays comes in clutch with the hero plays, a pulse bomb stick, just taking Fees out directly. And Kassar Plays has been, I think, instrumental in this match. As to one of the big reasons why the Ultimates are where they are in terms of that 3-0 and cementing themselves towards the top end of their group in Group B.
It's been a really good performance here from the Ultimates, and Shoes Money Crew, despite some very strong moments overall, and apparently a seemingly very good understanding of how their chosen comp works, they just weren't able to step up to the level and consistency that the Ultimates have had all the way through this, which is a shame because Choose Money Crew, they're a team with a long history in EMEA Contenders, and they're looking like they're not going to make it back up into Contenders this season.
Choose Money Crew tag has been one that has existed in Overwatch just across the board for quite some time. And I think the one thing that I want to say is that for the Ultimates, there was no point in any map that I could point at and say, consistently, this is a mistake they've been making, right? Mm-hmm. The same cannot be said for Choose Money Crew. There was, in every map, in all 3 maps, in most points, I could say there was a point where the Choose Money Crew made a grave mistake that cost them either time or just straight up the point. And that's something that if they want a chance in the next couple of iterations of Contenders trials, if they want to deal with that, it's going to have to be fixed because having dumping 4 ultimates into a lost fight is just something that cannot happen. And Choose Money Crew have shown that they are very, very talented. I've talked about every one of their players and hold many of them hold the entire team in high regard, but the execution was not there today, and the ultimates are the ones that come out in victory as a result.
And speaking of the Ultimates, it's time for our interview with our winning team, the Ultimates, and we've got Chucky Milk joining us to talk us through the victory. So Chucky Milk, welcome to the broadcast and congratulations on your win. How are you feeling?
Feeling great. It was a great win.
Okay, good. So that was... So forgive me for saying it, the Ultimates have seemed to have had a little bit of a rocky start over the course of Open Division, falling down to the lower bracket and eventually grinding your way back up into that second position. You guys have seemed to finally find your feet and found real consistency here. What's been the key for turning this team around?
Well, this meta is just about teamwork, and we just needed time and practice to scrim and focus on that because we have crazy DPS, like Fuki's cracked, Sar's cracked, and all we needed was just the teamwork to bring that all together.
I think that's I said in the broadcast a little bit about your guys that it's not so much of one focal player who's kind of taking the lead and sort of setting up the plays. It really is a team effort, and it bears out in what you've said so far. I guess the point from that is, seeing as it took you this long to get here, how do you keep that growth going, right? It's very easy to kind of hit a plateau and say, all right, we made that adaptation. How do you keep that going?
We just got to focus on our mistakes, and obviously we made mistakes today, so we just got to keep looking at those and improving on it.
It's funny that you say that because just before you came into the broadcast for the interview, LaFon was saying, looking back through these maps, I can't point to the Ultimates making consistent mistakes through this, so clearly you're a harder judge on yourself than maybe LaFon or I are. What would you point to as some of the mistakes you've been making today?
I did one mistake on second point defense there where I didn't realize I had nano blade, and we got caught out by that because of me.
Is that your job then? Are you ult tracking for the Ultimates?
Yeah.
Okay, that explains that.
I'm gonna step away from the game for just a minute because I have to ask you about your name. Bruh. Chocky Milk?
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, it's not about liking it. It's the name itself. The way. Oh, anyway. Back to Overwatch.
Focus up, LaFon. Focus up.
Yeah. I like chocolate milk as much as the next person. Oh my. To Overwatch for a moment though. Is there anyone in your group that you kind of stood out and said, either we need to beat these guys, or is there a team that you're kind of worried about coming in? Again, you guys are headed towards the end of Contenders trials, finishing up tomorrow. Is it more now just focusing up and making 2 contenders, or have you kind of set where our hardships are behind us?
Well, we're just looking to close it out and then focus on beating Avoided because they beat us twice now, and we're good on classic meta with Ashe Genji, but we're just struggling a bit against the Avoided comp.
Yeah, that's quite common. A lot of people struggle against the Avoided comp. It's I don't think it's had enough time in the meta yet for people to really pick apart what the weakness is, and these wonky comps need a lot of video footage for you to really get that. So best of luck on figuring that one out.
Thank you.
So that brings us almost to the end of our broadcast, Chucky Milk. Thank you very much for joining us. Before we let you go, anything you'd like to say? Anybody you'd like to shout out?
Nope.
Okay, great. Nice and simple.
Right.
Well, again, Chucky Milk, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on your win here today. Looking forward to see how the final day of Contenders Trials treats you.
All right, thank you. Bye.
And that does, of course, round out the broadcast for both myself and LaFon here today. But don't worry if you are concerned about not having any Overwatch to watch tomorrow. There will, of course, be more Contenders trials coming your way tomorrow here on Monkey Bubble. LaFon, before we disappear, any closing words for the audience?
As always, I mean, support tier 2, right? That's what we're here for. That's what we're here to do. And you're going to see some great players who are about to take that next step into the tier 1 space. I think there's been some very talented players come through EMEA in the last couple of years, and they deserve your support and they deserve you cheering them on.
Yeah, that's right, guys. Just imagine the feeling of spotting your favorite tier 2 player up in an our team and going, yeah, I was in on the ground floor. So join us for that experience, or at least the start of that experience, during tomorrow's broadcast, and we'll see you there.